What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Alexa's here. She's already talking.
Please try a little later.
She's like my co-host at this point. She talks so much during this show. Let's do that again. What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Good to see you guys. Took a second there. I got something on my hat. This side. It's so difficult to figure out which side is which. There we go. That was a good start to the show. Nice, clean broadcast already, as usual. What's going on, gang? Cujo Blues here. Stephen Leibowitz, Anthony Taylor, Andy Melman, usual crew. Good to see everybody. Happy Friday. Hopefully your work week's ended well. I'm sure everybody's winding things down at this point in their various offices, home offices, cranes, buses, planes, whatever else you might be riding around on out there or sitting on. Anybody work standing up? I feel like most of us work sitting down. There are stand-up jobs, of course, out there. Baseball players among them. Terry, who was on the radio call last night for the Yanks. Great voice, especially with know-it-all next to him. I'm not honestly sure who is doing the radio broadcast now that Sterling's out. They had a regular guy who filled in for a lot of games while Sterling was out, but his name is not leaping to mind. Somebody out there knows, I'm sure. Here we go. List of Yankees broadcasters. Wow, this is like everybody going back all the way in time. Holy hell. This is all TV, though. Television. There we go. Radio. I can't imagine it was Jeff Nelson. Jeff Nelson's on here. Justin Shackle is the other one. It could have been Ryan Rucco, but he's not a regular part of the broadcast this year. But good to hear. I wasn't listening to the radio broadcast last night, but definitely good to hear. I haven't listened to a ton of Yanks on radio this year. I love radio for baseball. It's a great way to consume the game, though. It's the only sport in my mind that really works well for radio. Wasn't Nelson? Okay. Dimitri's here. What's going on, D? Yeah, I'm not sure. Might have been. It could have been Rucco. It was probably the other dude, though. So anyway, a couple minutes in, we have a pretty fascinating looking 10-gamer to go through today. It's a wild pitching board. A lot of really interesting options. I updated the pitching projections. I put the original version up at like 1 in the afternoon, and then about an hour later, after I had gone through everything, put together the stack rankings, all of that, I went back to it, and I had a couple guys that I wanted to take a harder look at. So like Lance Lynn came down a little bit. The model was giving him a little bit too much on the innings, I thought, but he looks like he's in a killer spot, going to be super popular. Cooper Criswell for the Red Sox is a really challenging one today. He's got a spectacular matchup against the White Sox, but he really doesn't pitch deep into games very frequently. So it's a really fine line between, all right, if he's 5 innings, it's this. If he's 6 innings, it's that. Hasn't completed the 6, but has a really good shot to actually get there today. 5 and change innings. He's incredibly cheap. He actually projects 3rd or 4th on the pitching board as the 2nd lowest price option on FanDuel, which is insane. Couple other spots that I wanted to take a look at and move around a little bit. So if you pull the 1 p.m. update of the pitching projections, just make sure go back, grab the new ones. There's a couple changes that are probably going to be pretty key changes. Couple other spots that I saw had Lance Lynn projected up pretty high, and I thought that was another good reason to kind of temper expectations for him, because really it's a great matchup, but really has not been good. So I think we're just giving him a fair projection now. I feel like there's a good reason to not have him crazy high. Chris Bassett's another one that I'm a little bit, and we're going to get into all the man-by-man breakdown of this, and I'll say all this again in a minute. But Bassett usually gets a lot of his projection out of depth, and his last 2 starts, he hasn't gone deep. He's only gone 5 and change. and struck out 7 in those games. So still put up good scores. But I'm just curious about where his innings come down, if they're lessening his innings or if that was just an efficiency thing. Typically good for 100 pitches, no problem, and 6-7 innings. So anyway, let's get into the Vegas part of it. I just had some text messages pop up there that I was trying to process. It was 100 pitches. Ricky, thanks. I didn't look into the pitch count there. I figured, 181, 107. Yeah, and that's typically what you get out of Chris Bassett. If I just let it fly through the model, though, he was going to be dramatically high up on the board. Now I think I've got him in like the right spot. Like it's not, he's right there. Right? If I let the model do everything that it wanted to do with his pitching projection, he would have been up above Garrett Crochet. I don't think we wanted that. That's not where I had him originally. He was one that I adjusted correctly. But that's good to know that it was 100-plus pitches. So just an efficiency thing. And that was my suspicion, given that he struck out 7. Not the most efficient pitcher in the world usually. Just throws a lot of pitches. So anywho, no team above 5 runs today. Kind of interesting. Only a handful in the high 4s. We've got the Dodgers at the Yankees. Los Angeles looking pretty terrific. 9-run total in that game in Yankee Stadium. Going up against Cody Poteet. Looks like a really good opportunity for Dodgers hitting. Yankees on the other side, confirmed lineup is in, no Juan Soto, but it looks like they avoided total meltdown with Soto, just diagnosed right now in the initial diagnosis as inflammation, but going for more testing, but for our purposes, not in the lineup tonight. Still a pretty spectacular Yankees lineup, but they're going up against Yoshi Yamamoto, which is a little problematic. 4.23 implied total. You're not going to squish the Yankees all the way down in Yankee Stadium, but definitely a lower-ranked Yankees team and a lower-quality version of the Yankees lineup than we've seen basically every day this year. Cubs going up against Nick Lodolo for the Reds. 4.09 implied total on the Cubs side of that one. For Chicago, we get Justin Steele on the mound. He's got Cincinnati at a 4.50. I can definitely see some offensive upside for the Reds in their own ballpark. They're pretty good against left-handed pitching. Interesting spot for Steele given where he's priced and what we know the upside can look like for that pitcher. So he's on the board for some consideration. We're going to have to take a look at both sides of that game. The Guardians and the Marlins, kind of a low-end pitching matchup between a couple lefties here. Ryan Weathers going up against Logan Allen. Allen has been mostly pretty terrible this season. Ryan Weathers has actually outperformed Logan Allen, but Weathers is nobody's real idea of a premium pitching option, and he's going up against a pretty good, pretty low strikeout Guardians lineup. Both teams, though, pretty low. 3.81 implied total for Cleveland on the road, 3.77 implied total for Miami on the other side. I just don't love targeting this team, but you do get a lot of innings out of Weathers. Looking at his game log, he's gone at least 6 in 6 straight starts with an 8-inning start and a 7-inning start in there. He's been racking up some strikeouts. He hasn't been bad for earned runs this season. Might be a little bit more on the board, but it is just a team that we don't like targeting for a lot of those things. Giants going up against the Rangers. 3.90 implied total on the San Francisco side, going up against Michael Lorenzen, and then coming back the other way, the Rangers at just a 3.68 implied total going up against Logan Webb. Pretty high-end Logan Webb, and given the strikeout upside, maybe you could consider some shares of Lorenzen, looking at where he's got the Giants in terms of the run total. A lot of cheap pitching options on the board today, though. Top pitcher of the day is Garrett Crochet of the White Sox going up against the Red Sox. He's got them down at a 4.0 in basically a even-up game. I think this was dead even earlier, and when I updated it, went minus 100, minus 108. 4.08 implied total on the other side for the White Sox. That's where I do think it gets a little bit interesting. Cooper Criswell doesn't pitch deep into games, but has been fairly effective this season. So that really bad White Sox lineup, I don't know that even a 4+ total is entirely justified for them. I get why they're favored, just with Crochet on the hill, but you could easily have had it in the 3s for both of these teams, I think. Mariners and the Red Sox, by the way, are showing a bit of odd quality at the top of their lineup, just based on some of the power that Crochet gave up earlier in the year and a couple other things, but I greatly prefer the Crochet side of it. Mariners against the Royals. Daniel Lynch screwing up everything in the model by converting to Daniel Lynch the fourth in his naming now. It's in just the right spots. He's done something that the model's never seen before about how it lines up between where each place has his name as the way it is, because there's several different naming tables, and he's in the naming tables with the fourth in there, and there's still a spot that's not finding like his, I think it was his FanDuel salary correctly. So it's been really annoying to deal with all day. But he's going against Kansas City. He's got the Mariners up at a 4.78 implied total, second highest on the board. They ranked out fourth or fifth on the stacks board. Looks like a pretty good spot to get some Seattle bats. 4.33 implied total on the other side of that one. Bryce Miller on the hill for Seattle. Kind of surprised to see the Royals at even that high a total. Miller is very, very good and has been very good this season. So Kansas City's not bad, certainly, but that is a fairly high total for them against Miller. Rockies against the Cardinals. This was the one where I was talking about Lance Lynn going for the Cards. He's got the Rockies at just a 3.48 total. No disagreement there. No disagreement about the quality of the spot. Rockies on the road against a righty. It's just Lance Lynn really hasn't been good this season. So I think we're still wrestling with, 5-ish strikeout upside. He struck out more than 5 3 times this season, and all of them were in April. It's been a minute since he's really shown us all that much quality. It's a really good spot for him to do it, but I think he's going to be crazy popular for it. So I think there's other good spots on the board. Coming back the other way, Austin Gombera on the mound for the Rockies, and the Cards drawing a pretty healthy 4.61 implied total on their side. Maybe some bats coming to life. Love the spot for the Astros going up against Griff Canning, a pitcher we've targeted regularly, and a guy who gives up a ton of power. 4.74 implied total for Houston. On the Angels side, 3.85 for them going up against Framber Valdez, who I still like. I'm still on board with, striking out fewer hitters this year, hit some bumps in the road this year, but by and large, a spectacular pitcher who limits power greatly and who does have better strikeout stuff than he's shown us this season. So it's an interesting spot for Framber. More to the point, very interesting spot for Houston bats. Alex Bregman, the home run pick of the day, assuming he's in the lineup. Well, he's the home run pick either way, but don't use him if he's not in the lineup. I think he got hit on the hand the other day, missed a game, but they're expecting him to play. Kyle Tucker's the other question mark. Kyle Tucker not in the projected lineup. Probably not going to see him. I don't think he's on the IL, but he's been banged up for a few days. Let me just check the player note real quick on Tucker. It is an important lineup to wait on, this Houston one, because there's obviously, a couple key potential changes there. Yeah, so Tucker didn't get put on the IL, but they're not sure if he's going to play tonight is basically the consensus note. So we'll see. Either way, like that spot for the Astros, though. Blue Jays against the Athletics at the end of the night, 4.49 implied total for Toronto. Showing a little bit more quality than they were earlier in the season. There's some things to maybe believe in for Toronto. They're going up against Hogan Harris. That's certainly one of the things that could lead to some success. And then the aforementioned Chris Bassett going for the Blue Jays up against Oakland, 3.61 implied total for Oakland. Bassett looks, again, pretty high end. Diamondbacks against the Padres, 7-run total there to end things. Michael King going against Brandon Pfaadt. Both pitchers are very talented. Both lineups are pretty gettable there. I think that we could see a good pitching matchup here. That's how Vegas has it. 3.41 implied total for the Diamondbacks, 3.67 implied total on the Padres side. Both of these teams offensively, underperformance mostly on this side, and then some underperformance and some injury issues on that side really taking things down. So both of those teams a little bit more limited than usual, and both of those pitchers do have upside given their talent. Taking a look at that pitching board. I think we're sorted by FanDuel right now. So that's interesting. Did you catch that on the resort? It's very, very marginal. We're talking about, tenths and hundredths of a fantasy point here, so it really doesn't matter. But here's Cooper Criswell when I sort by DraftKings. A few spots down the board when I sort by FanDuel. Cooper Criswell at the second lowest available price on FanDuel, technically has the third highest projection in the model. That is a 6-inning projection. Like I said, Cooper Criswell is yet to complete the 6th inning this year. He's pitched into the 6th inning once. So we are definitely dealing with a situation where if he gives up a couple of runs, even if he gives up a few too many hits, we're probably looking at a 5-inning start. He could still match this. This is around where he's been in his good starts this year, even in 5 innings, 4 and change innings. He's got some upside. I don't think it's a completely safe play, but I don't think it's incorrectly projected up here. And it's a spectacular matchup against the White Sox. Again, sorting it by DraftKings, he drops down to here, but we're only quibbling over a half a point. So Criswell, number one option out of the bargain bin in my opinion, but you've got a lot of really good pricing on some of these options. Michael King projecting out second on the DraftKings board for only $8,000. He's $9,500 on FanDuel. I think that's correct. Yeah, he's run into some issues so far this season, but he's got very significant upside. The Diamondbacks aren't the highest strikeout bunch in the world, but he's got the talent to find a few along the way. He's been pitching better. He's kind of rounded into form over his last few starts. Had one bump in the road in his last 6. Gave up 6 innings to the Rockies of all teams. Outside of that, 2 shutout performances over 6 and 7 innings, 2 1-run games, and then a 3-run game. So I do think the Kings kind of found it. I'm fine paying $95 for it on FanDuel, but I probably won't be. I'll probably just be using that and going to crazy bats. And $8,000 on DraftKings seems like a bargain. Garrett Crochet, again, correctly at the top of the board, looks like a spectacular option today. Tons and tons of strikeout stuff. Ran into some rough luck between some home runs and some runs that shouldn't necessarily have been earned runs, so the ERA went up a little bit, but by and large, he's been absolutely spectacular. 10-9 on FanDuel, $8,900 on DraftKings. DraftKings has everybody on the pitching slate pretty cheap. Yoshi Yamamoto going up against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. $9,800 is the highest priced pitcher on the board. There's a very, very strong argument to be made that Garrett Crochet should be more expensive than that today, or that Yamamoto could be more like $94, $95, and you put Crochet at 98 if you want to keep everybody under 10. But this is a very low price. That's a very low price. This is fair. It's just high compared to where everybody else is, but a very fair price for Yamamoto. And again, against a slightly diminished Yankee or a very diminished Yankees lineup, taking Juan Soto out of it, but still a very good Yankees lineup. 99 on FanDuel, same story. He's expensive, but very good and could easily be worth it. Lodolo against the Cubs, 10-3-9-6. Projects out just fine. Strikeout upside for sure. Going up against a decent Chicago lineup that's got power against him in a hitter's ballpark. I don't love that spot for 10-3-9-6. Second highest price pitcher on the DraftKings slate. Second highest on both sites. So, if I can get some of these other options, I do like pivoting around that Lodolo spot, but I think a lot of people will do that, so he probably won't be very popular at those prices. And he's a very talented pitcher, could easily succeed there. Brendan Pfaadt going up against San Diego. Like I said, definitely an underperforming overall San Diego team outside of a few guys who are overperforming and I don't think are as good as their numbers might be. You do have a couple of terrific hitters in that lineup to get through. But I think he's got the talent to do it. We've seen him do it a number of times. He's been up and down this season, a couple 4-run games in a row in his last 2, but has only really gotten blown up once for 6 runs. Had a 5-run game also back in the beginning of April. But by and large, pitching pretty well and very low priced, $8,200, $7,900. Very, very easy to reach on both sides. Bassett absolutely on the board as a low-cost mid-range pitcher, $8,700, $8,300. No argument from me in terms of the where the median projection is, where the price is. I think that's a very good price for a guy who does have ceiling on that median projection. If you get 7 innings out of Bassett, he could easily have a nice strikeout game, 7 clean innings, book you both the quality start and the win bonus there because I like Toronto's chances to win that game. So that's definitely a solid mid-range that has a true ceiling on it, where Cooper Criswell's just cheap for a solid mid-range projection that I buy the median, but this is like him with a win bonus. This is like him, with 5 and change innings, and then maybe you get the quality start bonus on top of it on FanDuel if he manages to get through 6 for you. But there's not a ton of ceiling on Cooper Criswell. That's the one thing with that play. For 61, you're fine if he just gets you to the median because of that giant price difference between these guys. On DraftKings, it's not exactly the same, but he doesn't need to get you 6 and a quality start on DraftKings for the price. But it does put him just more as a, same option with some of these other guys that project out fairly similarly in the 7,000 range. Very easy argument to be made, say, that Justin Steele for 72 against Cincinnati, even with the ballpark, even with the matchups in mind, is just as good, if not better, an option than Cooper Criswell at 7,000. Even Ryan Weathers, honestly, at 71. You could make the argument there's a projection gap, but you can make the argument. Lance Lynn at 74. I'd rather have Criswell, I think, even with a little bit of potential innings limitation, than Lance Lynn at set for 400 more, even with a better matchup. Slightly better. Is it? It's not, actually. No. Criswell's got the better matchup. Facing the White Sox is the best matchup in baseball. Facing the Rockies, there's a couple interesting bats in that lineup. A couple guys in that lineup are showing a little bit of power against Lance Lynn. I'm not saying it's necessarily a great spot to get crazy contrarian and roster a ton of Rockies bats. But if he's at 74 and he's the most popular SP2 option on that board, a few shares if you're building 150. If you're building 20, you could throw Rockies into 1 or 2 against, and then have Lance Lynn in like 5 lineups be under the field on him. Logan Webb, like I said, terrific pitcher. Limited strikeout upside on a lot of slates, but very, very talented, very good at keeping the ball in the yard. A lot like what Framber Valdez does. 7,900, 8,200 for Framber, 8,900, 7,700 for Logan Webb. I would just follow the pricing. Framber slightly better against the Angels on FanDuel, also a much better matchup. Love the $1,000 price difference that I get there for a little bit higher projection and a better matchup with a ceiling on it. 82 versus 77 on DraftKings. It probably lofts Logan Webb up a little bit more. Maybe it pulls them closer to a tie there, given that Webb is significantly cheaper than Framber over there. I just don't love the matchup against the Rangers, even for a pitcher as good as Logan Webb. But this is obviously a very low price for a guy who is very talented, capable of giving you 6, finding the win. No reason to think that his team can't beat Michael Lorenzen. So it's a good spot there. Bryce Miller, again, I like this pitcher. You can see the impact. KC's having a little bit of an impact. That run total's having a little bit of an impact on his projections. 9,700, 8,500 at what I'm sure is going to be low ownership given where he's projected and what the game looks like. Bryce Miller could absolutely succeed here. It's just you're not gaining that much ground from 9,700 on a lot of these options on FanDuel. At 85, you could certainly bypass this group of pitchers on DraftKings if he has a good day. Not off the board on either side. Just the way it's projected, the way the game environment looks, not exactly ideal. Lorenzen could get San Francisco. I don't love paying 92 for him on FanDuel, but at 76 on DraftKings, he's definitely in the SP2 list. On the SP2 list. Steele's on there. Ryan Weathers is on there, like I said when I was talking about Criswell. Both of those guys right in line with him. Hogan Harris, I think we get really limited down the bottom of the board here. I don't think I'm going to Hogan Harris against Toronto, even at 65 on DK. Logan Allen against the Padres, not really. That's not Logan. How did that happen? Why is it showing me Arizona there? This is the other Logan Allen. That's just a board thing that's not impacting the projections anywhere. Thankfully. Yeah, it's just because this guy's listed first, so that window that I was showing you is... there you go. Was he that highly projected? Hang on. Maybe I'm wrong. $25 and $12. Where the fuck is he getting that? It's not displaying the right projection for him now, though, which doesn't make any sense. He should have a 25 here and a 12 there. I'm not sure why it's showing. Oh, this is all messed up. It's got it on there, too. Let me fix the board real quick. I'm glad I noticed this. Apologies, gang. Let me take a minute to fix the projections board. So, all right. Let me grab that. Against Miami. Right, that part's right. I'm going to do it over here. Any costs. These same name pitchers are so goddamn annoying. All right, Cleveland Logan Allen costs $6,500 on FanDuel. And $6,900 on DraftKings. Okay. Save that. Upload this. All right, so the point is, Logan Allen, not particularly good. I'm just wondering now. All right, so it's updated on the website. Yeah, that was fine. And then, but that's pulling the high one. Why the fuck? Take this off of here 1 second. Huh. It must have been using... At some point it switched. It was really weird. I've never seen it do this before. And we're still finding the wrong pricing. It's giving me the right matchup here. I know this is fun. We'll get back to the show momentarily. I just got to figure out why this is doing this. So that's correct, or correct-ish. 24.8 now, and 11.73. Is that coming through correctly? All right, good enough for government work. Yeah, all right. Whoops. That's the Logan Allen that he's supposed to be. That was really weird. There are multiple Logan Allens, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I changed that listing in the pitching, but I'm not sure why it was going and then grabbing the other guy's projection for a game that he's not pitching in. That was and that wasn't a correct projection for that other guy. So I got to look into this Logan Allen thing. Anyway. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, guys. Really appreciate that, as Monty Pritchett mentions down there. Continuing on here, Logan Allen, 6,500, 7,900, just kind of another value bargain bin type of an option. And again, not really pitching all that well this season. Had some games down the stretch last year. A guy that I kind of liked coming into this year. He was a keeper on the dynasty team for $1. I ended up cutting him after a handful of starts. Still paying him that $1 for the rest of the year, but. Not really pitching all that great. 7 earned runs in an inning and 2/3. That was at Colorado in his last start. A couple of 7 strikeout games before that. Seemed like he was maybe finding his stride before that Colorado game, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. But not a spot I'm looking at. Austin Gomber against St. Louis, with St. Louis showing some runs, some quality. The price is okay at $71.63, but really, again, it's just another bottom-end pitcher bottom end spot that you've got a lot of good value darts on the board. Do we really need to go to that level? Cody Poteet against the Dodgers, I really don't think you do, even at 61 as a dart on DraftKings. At 83 on FanDuel, I think you'd be out of your mind. Daniel Lynch against Seattle, not with Seattle showing that much quality, and not with Daniel Lynch kind of not being good. And then Griff Canning against Houston, bottom of the board. See if we got any lineups in the last little bit. So as mentioned with this game up top, we do have the Dodgers. Excellent. No Juan Soto for the Yankees. Obviously a downgrade. It's going to hurt any team, but they've got a lot of really good bats in this lineup still. So I don't think they're entirely off the board, but they're significantly diminished from where we normally get the Yankees. Dodgers on the other side. Basically, they're basically the everyday lineup. Get Hernandez down there. So, Cody Poteet has made 2 starts, thrown 11 innings, 2.45 ERA with a 2.74 xFIP, 23.8% strikeout rate. Hasn't really walked anybody. He's given up some premium contact. 90.1 miles an hour of exit velo. The barrels aren't bad. The hard hits aren't bad, but 4.76% home runs in a tiny sample of games. That amounts to a 5-inning start against the Giants at San Francisco, in which he gave up a home run, 2 earned on 3 hits, struck out 6, walked 1, and a 6-inning start at the Guardians, struck out 4, gave up a home run, just the 1 earned on 6 hits. Not a very talented pitcher. Not a high-end guy at all. A couple years ago, he made 2 starts through 28 total innings, 18.4% strikeouts, 3.86 walk, or 3.86 ERA, 9.6% walk, 3.86 ERA with a 4.11 xFIP. Also gave up a little bit of home runs, a little bit of power there. So I think you're just probably leaning into some Dodgers bats here if you've got the money to do it. You can see 4 guys in the starting lineup above the magic number in the home run model. And then the one guy at the top of the lineup who's not above the magic number is Freddie Freeman, who is a very good home run hitter, a very good overall hitter, and hits left-handed in Yankee Stadium against a mediocre righty. So that could easily be above 10 as well. Bottom of the lineup continues showing power. Jason Hayward, Andy Pajes. Pretty good options down there. Gavin Lux is better than where he projects what he's done so far this season. At least I think so. Supposed to be. And then Nick Hernandez, kind of an afterthought, mix and match utility type. But the Dodgers, at least from here up, look pretty terrific. From here up, they look absolutely spectacular. So you're leaning into Dodgers bats. You're kind of forgoing Cody Poteet shares on both sites. And then Yoshi Yamamoto for the Dodgers. I assume it's okay to call him Yoshi. Yoshinobu. $9,800 on DraftKings, $9,900 on FanDuel. He's pitched to a 28.4% strikeout rate over 65 innings and 12 starts to begin his major league career. 3.32 ERA, a 2.74 xFIP, and 11.9% swinging strike rate. He's given up a lot of hard hits, 45.2% hard hits on an 8.5% barrel, but on average, just an 8.8 degree launch angle, 89.2 miles an hour of exit velo. So he's been okay at limiting the exit velo, keeping the ball down generally. Doesn't get beat up for home runs too frequently. What's interesting about him is this Stuff Plus rating is slightly below. For a guy that they invested a $500 million in, the results have been fine. We're not going exclusively by Stuff Plus, obviously. But that's surprising. You would think with his reputation, with his numbers in Japan, with all the money that they paid him, you would just kind of expect that we'd be dealing with an above-average arsenal when we look at Stuff Plus. Now, he's got 2 pitches that grade out as phenomenally above average. 123 and a 124 on the, what is that, his slider and a 4-seamer? So 2 good pitches that were way above average. But then the rest of the arsenal grades out decidedly below average. Just kind of interesting there. But definitely making it work. Low walk rate, tremendous strikeout rate. Great results in strike throwing, inducing swinging strikes. He's got some good strikeout targets in this Yankees lineup. Obviously some deadly good bats still in here. You get both Judge and Stanton above the magic number for power upside. Both have been absolutely clubbing the ball. 21 home runs for Judge, 15 home runs for Stanton, a 258 ISO for him, 126 WRC+. He's been pretty terrific this year. Alex Verdugo jumping up to the 2 spot, keeping a lefty in that spot. I think he's a good fit for that role. A lot of bat on ball skills. A little bit of power. Definitely gets helped out by Yankee Stadium from the left side of the plate. Just 4,300, 3,200. I think Verdugo's in play if you're looking at Yankees. Like I said, they're ranked down the board from where they would normally be. But if you're going to put the Yankees down there and take a lot of ownership away from them and keep a lot of these guys at pretty effective prices, yeah, it's a very good pitcher on the other side, but this team can beat very good pitching. And they've got at least one all-world hitter in that lineup. So I think there's justification for including some Yankees if you're building 150. Even if you're building 20, you probably want to have a couple with a couple Yankees bats in there. Not a priority like they normally would be, but that makes them a little bit more interesting. If they're deprioritized industry-wide, then all right, yeah, no Soto, but I can still get Judge, Stanton, let's say Rizzo and Verdugo, or Volpe, Judge, Stanton, Rizzo, or any combination thereof. It's still not bad for the prices that you're paying. So, as a contrarian option, they're on the board a little bit here, but best spot in the game overall is either the Dodgers offense or Yamamoto on the mound. If you're looking at Dodgers bats, I know I just ran through the lineup quickly, but you're actually getting a somewhat reduced price on Mookie Betts at the top, $5,900 at shortstop on DraftKings, and down to just $4,000. That's a high price, right? That's the threshold between you're an expensive star or you're, a very good player. But Mookie Betts is more than a $4,000 player there. Shohei Ohtani at $4,300, 65. That's about where Mookie should be. Mookie at 312, 411, 512, a 200 ISO, 67% better than average for run creation, 10 homers, 9 steals. Ohtani's got 15 homers, 14 steals, a tremendous shot at putting one in the seats in Yankee Stadium. 18.18, I believe, leads the slate in the home run model. Mookie at 13.27, Will Smith at 11.93, Teoscar Hernandez at 12.80. He got us our home run pick of the day yesterday. I love his shot at coming back with another one today. Tons of barrels, tons of hard hits for all those guys. Freddie Freeman, again, slightly below the magic number. Lots of barrels out of Freddie, still 9.9%. It's down from 11.1. 39.8% hard hits. Okay, that's down from 41.8. Average is down from 331 to 294. On base is down a little bit. Slug, ISO, it's down across the board, but this is still a tremendous hitter. It's not like the Dodgers are worried about him. It's not like they've dropped him out of the 3 spot because he's been like Paul Goldschmidt. He's still tremendous. It's just maybe not the Freddie Freeman who's competing for a batting title, right? So 5,500, 3,800, perfectly fairly priced. Again, another lefty who can benefit from this ballpark. Smith is one of the top catching options in all of baseball. Feel free to attempt to prove that statement wrong. I don't think it's possible. Jason Hayward, 29-27. A little bit of pop from a lefty bat. Those are cheap prices, and I can't imagine he's going to be all that popular. Helps make things work later in the Dodgers lineup here. Definitely not somebody to take off your board. 7.44 in the home run model. Page's drawn at 8.42. He's got 6 homers on the year. Hayward's got 2 in just 59 plate appearances, a 42.2% hard hit rate. Low strikeout option, too. A lot of bat on ball. Lux at the bottom, just 210, 264, 290 over 174. That's definitely disappointing. Just 1 home run, 2 steals. They still roll him out there. They still like the kid. He is a lefty. He's very cheap at second base. Not a bad option to just stick in there in a few lineups. I'm sure you're going to be building a bunch of Dodgers stacks. Somebody to at least rotate through some of those lineups and change things up as you're building. No positional conflicts with Mookie. So perfectly fine there. That said, Mookie having second base eligibility on FanDuel is very interesting because there's a lot of high-end shortstops on this slate. So being able to move him over while still getting a util play as well, kind of interesting. Technically, you could play the 3 most high-end shortstops on the FanDuel slate all in the same lineup. On the Yankees side, Volpe, Verdugo, Judge, Stanton, Rizzo, like I was saying before, pretty solid little 5-man. You can sub any one of those guys not named Judge out of that lineup and go with Glaber. He's starting to catch on a little bit. He's still just 2,800 across sites at second base. So another pretty valuable option in the second base role. Volpe's at 288, 352, 444, 130 WRC plus. Might be inclined to swing for the fences a little bit more with no Soto there. I think he has to do a little bit more, but hopefully he just focuses on getting on base ahead of Verdugo, ahead of Judge. Verdugo, very good at putting the ball in play. He's shown a little bit of of power upside this year. Another guy who's capable of getting on base, setting the table for the sluggers behind him. Judge and Rizzo I talked about, or Judge and Stanton I talked about. Rizzo for just 44.27. A lot of lefty power, a lot of lefty upside. He's got 7 home runs, just a 119 ISO. Not a great contact profile this year, but we've got a lot of years of history with Rizzo where more than capable of putting one into those right field seats. DJ LeMahieu just 34-24, first and third base eligible on both sites. Hasn't done much of anything. He scored a few runs since coming back over 28 plate appearances. He's very cheap. He's put bat on ball pretty well a couple times with that 12.5% barrel, 50% hard hits in what is probably 8 batted ball events. Capable of continuing to hit the ball hard, capable of driving these numbers up. He has gotten on base at a 357 clip in the tiny sample. He's fine to build into lineups. I just don't love him at first and third. Trent Grisham, 21 on both sites, hit his second home run of the year last night, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not making that up. Very, very cheap. Lefty bat at the bottom of the lineup. That said, Trent Grisham is not very good. Jose Trevino, a playable but low-end catcher at the bottom of the lineup. So Dodgers bats, Yamamoto, and then sneaky contrarian Yankees bats for cheap pricing. They're not off the board. Cody Poteet is off the board. Greg Biancone, we are absolutely thinking Houston bats tonight, buddy. I believe they're the top-ranked team on the old stacks board. Love that matchup against Griff Canning. Mamba, it sounds like Mamba took down another big win. Congratulations, pal. What'd you get? Mamba says, thanks for the advice on pitching. Another big win for the bankroll. Another big win yesterday. Love to hear it, man. It's awesome. Don Don keeps changing this name up. Don't play, bend it over, lucky me, I'm a clover. I think that's what we're going with here. So Don was asking a little bit before. Steven, going back to what I said earlier, writing down don't use him if he's not in the lineup. But Don was asking, and we'll get to this game in a little bit, but would you take Mason Wynn at shortstop in a one energy lineup and build bats around him? It's a deep slate with a lot of shortstop options. So he's not necessarily at the top of my board at the position. But at the same time, he's been pretty good this year. He's not terrible. 311, 360, 444, hit 3 home runs, stole 8 bases in his 202, creating runs 30% better than average. Low strikeout, puts the ball in play. Just not like a home run hitting shortstop. You know, he's no Corey Seager, but a guy who can put the ball in play, kind of like what you said, like an energy guy, right? Put the ball in play, get on a few times. I just don't know, when you say build bats around him, does that mean like look to stack the Cardinals around him? I think that could be good. They got a pretty good run total in Vegas. They've got a great matchup against a bad pitcher. We're coming back to this game in a minute. Some of these guys come into life a little bit, so it's not the worst option in the world. But it depends on what you plan on doing with the rest of those spots. But Mason Wynn, definitely not a bad option at short. He's not as expensive as all those other, the star shortstops on the slate. So Nick Lodolo, projecting out fairly well. A lot of guys in this exact 32 to 16, 17 kind of range across sites. 26.1% strikeout rate for him on the season over 8 starts, 46 and a third, 3.11 ERA with a 3.48 xFIP, very small walk rate, terrific whip, phenomenal swinging strike rate, and CSW is very, very good at 32.1%, has not given up a lot of premium power, not a lot of home runs. Stuff Plus likes him, 3 points above average for the full arsenal. Last year in 7 starts, 34 and a third, 28.3% strikeout rate. Largest sample the year before, 103 and a third over 19 starts, 29.7% strikeout rate. Didn't really struggle with power that year. In the small sample last year, he did have some hiccups with power with home run balls. But ended up not pitching the rest of that season, so maybe something was just up a little bit there. 96 on DraftKings. I think he's in play. I just don't love the matchup. I don't love targeting this Cubs team. And I don't love the ballpark. But he's easily in play. He projects out like it, right? There's no reason to take him down further. I'm sure other places have him projected a couple of points higher. So the model's got the healthy respect for the Cubs that we need anyway. 10-3 on FanDuel is not a very comfortable price to pay on this slate. 96 on DraftKings is also very high. So when you consider that part of it, I do think it makes him just kind of an also-ran option. He projects, again, as the 4th highest pitcher on the board, but you're not losing that many points by going all the way down to, say, Logan Webb as the 9th highest pitcher on the board. Not a lot of daylight between those projections. So given where he's priced, I don't love it, but more than capable of beating this Cubs team, more than capable of having a 7-8 strikeout game against them. Each of his last 2 starts, he struck out just 3. Gave up just 2 earned runs over 6 innings against this Cubs team at Chicago in his last one. 7 hits, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 earned, no homer. Against St. Louis, 5 1/3, gave up a home run, 1 earned on 5 hits, struck out just 3. A couple of 6 strikeout games, but gave up 4 earned runs in each of those earlier. Best performance this year was a 7-inning game against San Diego at San Diego back on April 29th. Struck out 11 in that one. Gave up a home run, but just the solo home run in the entire game. Walked 2. Yeah, I don't love the option. It was also, there was a couple of weeks gap in there. From the 11th to the 27th, he didn't pitch. I forgot what the issue was. But the 2 starts back have not been great. Those are the 2 3 strikeout games. So with all of that considered, given where the price is at, I don't think I love it. I think he is playable, but I don't love it. Justin Steele at just 7,200, 7,300 is kind of compelling. Again, the Reds very good against left-handed pitching. There's a lot of capable righty bats, a couple of switch hitters in this lineup. So he's under threat. He's definitely not safe. His strikeouts are down a little bit year over year from last year, 24.6% strikeout rate actually each of the last 2 seasons, down to 22.5 this year. Swinging strikes are way down over the last 2 years. CSW is an exact match for where it's been. So we've just lost a little bit of swinging strike stuff in the small sample of 7 starts and just 37 1/3 for Justin Steele. I think the upside is there. I think he's got, I don't think he's lost his talent by any means. 5 strikeouts in the last one, gave up 1 earned run, but 5 total runs on 7 hits. That was against this Reds team. Struck out 8 Brewers at Milwaukee the game before that. No earned runs, 3 hits, walked just 1. Hasn't walked more than 2 hitters in a game this year. 8 strikeout high, but also has a 7 strikeout game. I think given where the pricing is at, I think I prefer Steele in this game. I don't love targeting either of these teams, especially not in this ballpark. What's the weather and the wind look like tonight? But I do think that Steele, given the value pricing for a guy who is better than value pricing, I think that's interesting. Whoa, I don't recall ever seeing a board like this from Roth. Every game except for the KC game, the Seattle KC game, is green with positive indicators for wind blowing out. Milwaukee, Detroit on the earlier slate, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, LA, and New York, winds out to center at 10 miles an hour. This game winds out to left. So yet another reason to not really love pitching in this one. Boston at the White Sox winds out to center. And then Seattle KC has, looks like some rain risk. So Steele for 72, 73. Again, based on just the pricing alone, definitely on the board for SP2 shares. I think you can get away with him as an SP1 on FanDuel. It's just I really start to question the spot. Like, why would you throw that dart when you've got comparable or better options? Again, if you resort by FanDuel, Criswell jumps up above him. Bassett's right there. I'm sorry, we're looking at Steele, who's down here. So Criswell's already above him. All these guys are above him. So while I like him, while I think he could succeed here, and I think the price is right, there's a lot of other options rather than tangling with this Reds offense in their home ballpark with the wind blowing out. If you're going to Reds bats, which I think you can, and no reason not to. Same with the Cubs on the other side. Stuart Fairchild, righty bat off the top. 4 home runs, 6 steals, a 103 WRC+. A little bit of table setting ability with a 331 on base. Not expensive to bolt onto a stack. 40.5% hard hits in his 119 plate appearances. That said, the hard hits were way lower last year. Bounced up higher the year before. kind of a mixed bag of results so far, but not a bad spot in a good lineup. Ellie De La Cruz, 5,800, 3,900, 11 home runs, 32 steals, a 197 ISO, a 116 WRC+. A lot of stuff coming down around the edges of his quality counting stats and the DFS scoring numbers, but there's tons and tons of any given slate upside. 5.44 in the home run model leads the team today. Jimmer Candelario, 4,000, 3,000, cheap enough across sites for his power upside. A 204 ISO leads the team. 8 home runs, 107 WRC+. Can definitely grab some shares of Candelario if I'm stacking this team up. No positional conflicts on either site because you get him at first or third on DraftKings. Spencer Steer at just first base on DK, 5,100, 3 positions on FanDuel. I love the ability to put Spencer Steer at second base in this lineup on FanDuel for 35. 7 home runs, 11 stolen bases in 255 plate appearances. An effective cleanup bat, 40.4% hard hits. 169 ISO, but a 113 WRC+. Doing Spencer Steer type things, and I think there's upside for more in terms of his batting average. Last year, 271 over 665 plate appearances. Getting on base at a 345 clip is perfectly serviceable, though. Tyler Stevenson, a lot of barrels, a lot of hard hits this year. He's got 6 home runs, a 168 ISO, creating runs 14% better than average. Good spot in the lineup, good ballpark to hit in, going up against a lefty. 3,700 on the DraftKings slate where you have to play his position. 2,800, you can consider him a first baseman on FanDuel if you want to, because you get Steer at multiple positions. You get Candelario with third base eligibility. You've got the util spot to exploit. I think Stevenson's playable across sites. Jonathan India hasn't been bad. 361 on base, 105 WRC+, keeping him afloat nicely. Counting stats are what they are. 4 home runs, 5 steals. The average isn't great, but he's been okay. Puts the ball in play effectively, draws his walks. TJ Friedl I like a lot at the bottom of the lineup. 18 home runs last year. He's got 2 in 61 plate appearances, 4 stolen bases already, getting on base at a 361 clip. Not bad, just lefty-lefty isn't ideal for Friedl, but definitely playable, and that probably suppresses his ownership. If they chase Justin Steele or if he goes a short start anyway, upside for Friedl beyond that. Santiago Espinal, Blake Dunn at the bottom of the lineup. Espinal is who he is. 3 home runs, 6 steals. It's decent counting stat output, over 141 plate appearances. Never going to be a tremendous bat. Blake Dunn at the dead minimum. Something weird is going on in the hallway again. Dunn had 4 home runs and 9 steals in 180 plate appearances in AAA so far this year as a 25-year-old, 93 WRC+. Had a really good AA last year, AA season last year, with also some good results in high A. But that's going from high A to start the year, presumably over 202 plate appearances. He hit 8 home runs and stole 19 bases, created runs 49% better than average, 276, 411, 460 triple slash. But again, 24 years old at high A is a mismatch. 24 years old in double A is closer to being correct, but still you're a little bit old for that level. 15 or if you're going to be talented. 15 homers, 35 steals, though, in 357 plate appearances. 332, 433, 556. He brutalized Double A last year. Coming into the season, per graphs, he was the 15th ranked organizational prospect. No idea where he is on the MLB prospect board. Doesn't have any great grades in traditional scouting outside of some good, some speed, which is obvious in those stolen base totals. Maybe he's a playable wraparound option if you're stacking up a ton of Reds in a bunch of lineups. Dead minimum price always makes things work, so you can grab him here and wrap him back around to the quality. Maybe you skip over Fairchild. You just go Dunn, Ellie, Candelario, and Steer. And especially being able to go like outfield, short, either corner, and second base with that group is not bad. Obviously not the best position in the lineup, hitting at the bottom. The Cubs, I'm sure we've got the confirmed lineup by now. We do. Patrick Wisdom in the leadoff spot. I love that. Put this together here. Check out our pals over at acemind.io, by the way. Know a handful of you guys have done that. It's very appreciated. Hopefully you're seeing some success with the product. But the guys have some great stuff for optimizers, simulation tools for baseball, WNBA, NBA while that's going on, NFL when that comes back. I think PGA is up there. I forget which one I said the other day that wasn't actually up there. I think MMA is up there. I think PGA is up there. Might be one or the other. I forget. I don't think they have NASCAR yet, but they're working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And more to the point, best pricing around. To get the quality and the products that you get out of those guys for the money that they're asking compared to the money that some of these other joints are asking for, forget it. There's no comparison. Promo code rotoscouts all in caps gets you 20% off your first month also, and they give everybody a 3-day free trial over there. So use up your 3 days, decide that you like it, use the promo code, get 20% off your first month, you're off and running. I popped in the projected version of the Cubs, and then I started talking about Ace Mind. That was supposed to be happening while I edited this. Apologies for that. So Patty Wisdom in the leadoff spot. Suzuki. Is Nico in the lineup? He's not. All right. Wisdom, Suzuki, Bellinger, Morel. Ian Happ moves up. Dansby moves up. It's David Bote there. And Bush. So you can see at the top of the lineup some of the risk for Nick Lodolo going up against this Cubs team, both in terms of some quality guys who in years past have gotten on base a little bit better than they are so far this year, but more to the point, a lot of power. Cody Bellinger can hit either lefties or righties, and then we've got 3 solid right-handed power bats at the top of the lineup going up against Nick Lodolo here. 9.23 in the home run model for Patty Wisdom. He's got a 14% barrel rate and 41.9% hard hits over his 69 plate appearances. He's hit 3 home runs in 69 chances, stolen 3 bases, a 246 ISO, 119 WRC+. Last year, 23 home runs in 302 with a 54.7% hard hit and a 19.5% barrel rate. Wisdom strikes out a lot, draws some walks, mostly a 3 true outcomes type hitter, but tons of power for 3,800, 2,600. Makes the Cubs more interesting with him in the leadoff spot. Seiya Suzuki, 47-33, lots of hard hits, 11.8% barrels, 52.7% hard hits, 7 home runs this year, a 197 ISO, hit 20 home runs last year. I'm just realizing that that's stretched out. That's why I have the last year's stuff. Give you guys a better view. Mamba's getting a lot of Cubs. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. $15 G's for Mamba. That's awesome, dude. Killer. Great day. Love it. We've been rolling over the last couple of weeks results-wise. A lot of people knocking stuff down out there. Love to see it. When you get them, if you get a chance, shout them out on Twitter, drop them into Discord, so on and so forth. I tend not to take the screenshots out of Discord and obnoxiously tweet them, but if you tweet them, I'll respond to it and retweet it or whatever. I like to spread the word without being obnoxious about it. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle, by the way. If you see something pop up, give it a like, give it a retweet. Helps us out a little bit. So going down the rest of that lineup, after Suzuki, who looks tremendous for the pricing at 47.33. Bellinger for just 52.36 makes a lot of sense. 258, 321, 448, 191 ISO, creating runs 15% better than average. Not striking out, doing a Cody Bellinger type things. Love the option there. Chris Morel, 45.34, another tremendous right-handed power bat. 12.3% barrels, 46% hard hits so far this year. Last year, 15.5 and 50%. He's got 12 home runs. He's slashing 205, 316, 400, but 12 homers, 6 stolen bases, a 195 ISO. A lot of upside for power, 9.74 in the home run model. Ian Happ, 6.31, not off the board for home run upside himself. 6 home runs on the season, 156 ISO, 108 WRC+. Dansby underperforming the season badly, but does have plenty of home run upside. He is still making good contact, 11.1% barrels, 42.9% hard hits are both actually up over last year. The barrels are up over 2 years ago. The hard hits are down slightly compared to that year. Just 208, 281, 333 is not a Dansby Swanson-like slash line. 5 home runs, 4 steals. Should have a little bit more than that over 203, but very capable of coming roaring back over the next couple of months. David Bote is the dead minimum on DraftKings at 2,000, 2,100 on FanDuel. I guess that's at least a little bit interesting. Do we have 2 years ago, 4 home runs, a 110 WRC plus across 127 plate appearances? Been around for a minute. He's no young kid. He's 31. Best season we've gotten out of him was 2019. 356 plate appearances, hit 11 home runs, 257, 362, 422, 105 WRC plus. For the cheap pricing, he's playable. He's not an ideal option, but he's playable. From the 7 spot, I feel like maybe you could have gone Bush there, Bote there, and then Amaya. Just if I'm making this lineup, but I get it. Not a great option, but he's very, very, very cheap if you're rostering this team. Positional blocker with Chris Morel, though, on DraftKings. That's problematic. Michael Bush, 4,200, 2,700, 6.65 in the home run model. Solid little 14.2% barrel rate. 8 home runs. Most of them came in the first 50, 60 plate appearances. 237, 332, 434. Getting on base effectively. Still a 197 ISO. Creating runs 18% better than average over 202. Not a bad option. Down lineup. 4,200 is pretty cheap for his talent on DraftKings at first base. 2,700 is definitely cheap for him on FanDuel. Positionally, so you've got first third, and outfield. I think you can get away with stacking basically everybody together in any configuration you want on FanDuel, given some of that flexibility. More positionally blocked on DraftKings, but not really bad because Wisdom's first or third. So you can't get Wisdom, Morel, and Bush in the same lineup on DraftKings, which is fine, given the gaps in the lineup. You go either Bush with Wisdom at third, Wisdom at first, Morel at third, Wisdom at third, and Bush at first. I think are your 3 best combinations. So it's not a tragedy to not be able to roster those guys all 3 together in the same lineup, but it's less than ideal. Miguel Amaya, kind of an afterthought at catcher. Sub Mendoza, 2 home runs, .081 ISO over 138. Who mentioned Ellie hitting right-handed, by the way? Somebody did, and I wanted to give you credit for that because that is actually a good call. Steven Leibowitz, nailing it. Ellie batting right-handed is no bueno. Yeah, Ellie has significant differences as a righty hitter or a lefty hitter. So something to keep in mind. Mom is buying the pizza tonight. Love it. We talked through the Reds lineup, so it's bats for me. It's probably whichever way it came out on the website. I forget which team is. I can tell. It's Cubs bats, then Reds bats for me. I think that makes sense. And then if I had to take the pitchers, it would be Justin Steele on both sites, just given the discount. But I don't think Nick Lodolo is off the board. If he has a good day, obviously, for everybody, they have to have a good day. But he can easily pay off those prices if he has a good day. It's just compared to everybody else on the board, he feels a little bit high priced for this spot. The Cleveland Guardians with presumably the correct Logan Allen at this point. I know for sure that these are that Logan Allen's stats because the other guy doesn't have 12 starts. I think that's the correct DraftKings price. Double check that. It's not. $6,900 is the correct DraftKings price. So the other Logan Allen costs $79 and this one costs $69? How much sense does that make? There we go. I think we're correct now. I don't understand how the hell the other Logan Allen cost $7,900. Am I missing something? Did he do has he not given up any earned runs this year or something? I mean, the dude's exclusively a reliever. He's thrown 27 innings all year in 11 games, 3.67 ERA, a 4.39 xFIP, and a 16.9% strikeout rate. Why does he cost $7,900 on DraftKings? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, it's not like he's on the slate. It doesn't really matter. It's just baffling. You can take those pitchers entirely away at DraftKings. Nobody cares. You don't need to list them. They just get in the way. Anyway, this Logan Allen is a 5.83 ERA, a 4.25 xFIP, a 19.7% strikeout rate. Stuff Plus doesn't like the Arsenal at all. Hasn't been completely tragic for premium contact, but has given up a bunch of home runs this season. 1.55 ERA, despite just a 7.7% walk rate. Maybe a little bit of misfortune baked into there, but he's given up a lot of good a lot of frequent contact. Just 9.4% swinging, 27.2% CSW on the season. As I said before, he had a blow up in his last one at Coors Field. We'll scratch that one. That was an inning and 2/3, gave up 7 earned, a home run, struck out just 1, but we'll take it off because it was at Coors Field. Against the Angels in Los Angeles, 5 2/3, struck out 7, walked 2, gave up 2 home runs, but just 3 earned runs, 7 hits. A 7 strikeout game against Minnesota, 5 hits, no runs over 6 innings. 6 innings against the White Sox, struck out just 3, walked 1, but gave up nothing over across 6 hits. Just 2 1/3 against Detroit, another meltdown, 7-run game. Had a long stretch of starts to begin the year. It's 5-6 starts in a row where he gave up 3 runs or more. Low strikeout totals. Those 7 strikeout games were both tied for his season high. Pretty low end option, even against the Marlins. It wouldn't absolutely floor me if he went out through 6 innings, struck out 7, gave up an earned run or 2, and had an okay day. But there's a lot of guys priced pretty similarly that I think are just better pitchers right now. Ryan Weathers is probably one of those guys, odd as it might be to say. 3.41 ERA, 3.74 xFIP over 12 starts, 68 2/3. He's carried a 22.1% strikeout rate. He's given up some premium contact, but on a low launch angle at 7.2 degrees on average. That's going to help you keep home runs in the yard, regardless of how well struck they are. Last year, that was completely different. 16.2 degree average launch, more than double what he's done so far this year in a similar sample, 12 starts, 57 2/3. He was also much worse for strikeouts, much worse for walks, much worse for runs allowed. Home runs were more than double. No tiebreak the year before, only 3 2/3. So, I mean, given that he's pitched well enough, you can make the argument that he's on the board. It's just this Guardians offense has been good. There's some buzz going around about maybe it was because of some wind tunnels that they've created in their home park, which was interesting to look at. A lot of sneaky fly balls getting out in right field in Cleveland this year. But I think this is just a good Guardians team. It's one that we typically don't try and tangle with pitchers like this. If you get a 30% strikeout guy against Cleveland, that's fine. You can fire away. 22.1% with some idea that, based on last year, he's not necessarily that guy. It's a little bit thinner. In 30 starts back in 2021, he had just an 18% strikeout rate, just to put another point on it because we didn't have the 2022 season. 5.32 ERA with a 4.71 xFIP that year. That's probably like dead on who he is. All right? It's not quite as bad as he was last year. Not quite as good as he's been this year. So in the head-to-head, I would rather have Cleveland bats. And in the head-to-head going the other way, I would rather have Marlins bats. We do have the Cleveland lineup. Tyler Freeman in the leadoff spot today. No Stephen Kwan. So Freeman, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor both move up 15.80 in the home run model for Ramirez, 14.97 for Naylor, and David Fry jumps above the magic number by virtue of moving from the 5 spot to the 4 spot, 10.33 in the home run model for him. A lot of power showing for the Guardians through those 3 spots. A lot of quality against lefties from those 3 hitters. So I like the upside. Fry has been oddly one of the best power hitters in baseball to start his campaign. 146 plate appearances, 8 home runs, a 265 ISO, a 203 WRC plus, getting on at a 473 clip. His OPS leads players, or at least as of a couple days ago, players with, I think it was like more than 135 plate appearances. And he was out of the lineup a couple days for Cleveland. Freeman at the top, 218, 310, 356, not really doing what he allegedly is capable of in terms of having a lot of back control, being a low strikeout guy. He is doing 15.1% strikeouts this year. Just not seeing a lot of results for his bat on ball skills. 5 home runs, 8 stolen bases is great, but needs to do more of what they actually expect him to do to stay at the top of the lineup here and really make it work, which is getting on base, hitting for a better average. As a table setter, he is a good option for the pricing. $3,600 on DraftKings especially is very, very cheap. $3,100 on FanDuel is fair. If he had been priced at like $28 based on this year's performance, I would also have called that fair. Fry's definitely expensive at $5,700 on DraftKings, by the way. He does have catcher eligibility back over there. He had lost it, I think, for a couple days in there. Given the catcher eligibility, I think we're okay at that price. If you took away his catcher eligibility, $5,700 for him in the outfield versus $5,000 for Josh Naylor at first base, that's kind of a no-brainer to me. I think Naylor is the better of those two hitters. I might be walking a tightrope with that. Maybe Fry is really this guy. I think we see some dramatic cooling from David Fry as the weeks go on. He's definitely in play on both sides. I'm not taking him off the board by any means. I'm just saying between those two hitters, I prefer Naylor for the $700 discount, even lefty-lefty. And then I see Menez, $5,000, $3,400. He's got 4 home runs and 9 steals, 328 on base, creating runs 5% better than average. Perfectly serviceable option at second base. Gabriel Arias, $3,000, $2,400, 4 positions on FanDuel, 2 on DraftKings, 1 home run and 4 steals this season, just a 60 WRC plus. But the memory of putting some good bat on ball from the right side last year with solid barrel rate, solid hard hit rate. Will Brennan, Austin Hedges, Brian Rocchio at the bottom of the lineup. Gets fairly thin down there. Brennan's okay, 238, 296, 372. Not an ideal slash line. 5 home runs, 3 steals, some good counting stats in 179 plate appearances. By no means a star, but he's very affordable. If you need one last bat in a Cleveland stack, you can build him in. But another guy, lefty, potentially not ideal for him. Hedges, a little bit of righty pop from the catcher spot, but we're getting really thin if we're going that deep in this lineup, and we've got a better catcher option higher up. And then Rocchio's just here for defense. Marlins side of things, Xavier Edwards in the top spot. Debut performance for him this year. Did he get? Yeah, he had a cup of coffee last year. 85 plate appearances, 291, 325, 329, 5 stolen bases. Believe that's his profile. I think he's a back control and speed kind of a prospect, if I remember correctly. Yep. 24 years old. Going to be 25 by the end of the season. In 433 AAA plate appearances for Miami last year on top of what he did in the show in that small sample. He hit 7 home runs, stole 32 bases, while slashing 351, 429, 457, and creating runs 30% better than average. It's a very good AAA season over 433. And then you add another 5 stolen bases in the show with a good slash line in the show. So interesting enough, given the spot in the lineup leading off against a pretty bad left-handed pitcher. Where is can I get? They haven't improved it that much. So we do have minor league game logs in on graphs now, but I don't think we can get all the way down to minor league splits yet, unfortunately. Last year, only 18 plate appearances, 4 hits, 4 singles against left-handed pitching as a righty. No real sample to speak of. So maybe get a couple of singles out of him for $2,200 at second base on DraftKings. Dead min, same position on FanDuel. Not a bad option. Brian De La Cruz, 34, 28 across sites. He's got 10 home runs, a 161 ISO. Decent enough right-handed bat for the cheap pricing. Josh Bell, 3,500, 2,800. He's got a 6.67 in the home run model. De La Cruz, by the way, 7.93 to lead the team. 7.33 for Jake Berger further down the lineup, and then 7.91 for Jazz Chisholm. Some interesting bats. They're not running away with projections, but the top end of the lineup at least, 1 through 5, has some interesting hitters, has some proven power bats, has some good righty power. Against this scuffling version of Logan Allen, I can see getting to some Marlins. If you're building a bunch of lineups, they're definitely in play as one of the cheapo unpopular, contrarian, low-cost type stacks. They're pulling just a 3.77 in Vegas, though. Keep that in mind. Jake Berger has 4 home runs in 168 plate appearances, not making the same quality of contact as he has the last 2 seasons, but reason to believe that that will return as time goes on. 3,300 at first or third base on DraftKings, 2,700. He's very, very cheap for the power potential that he provides. Jazz Chisholm, the most expensive player at 48.34. Perfectly happy paying that for Jazz. 8 home runs, 11 stolen bases for him so far this year. Against same-handed pitching this year, Jazz has 2 of his 8 home runs in 85 plate appearances versus 173 on the other side. 241, 294, 405 versus 253, 24, 429. A 165 ISO compared to 179. Takes a hit in run creation, down from 111 WRC plus to just 98 WRC plus against same-handed pitching. But that's where we're getting him further down the lineup than usual. Still a lot of power upside, a lot of premium contact upside, capable of certainly hitting a home run against Logan Allen. And if this team manages to chase Logan Allen, or he's not the best for depth of start in most cases anyway, some upside going forward out of that for Chisholm. Dane Myers, 32-24, hasn't done much in 49 plate appearances, not a lot of history to speak about. Emmanuel Rivera, 2,000, 2,200 multi-position across sites, pretty low end, over 114 plate appearances this year. Timmy Anderson banged up and out of the lineup for this team, so we got Vidal Brujan in there, 2,800, 2,400. 3 positions on FanDuel, shortstop only on DraftKings. 1 home run, 2 steals this year, and 98 WRC plus across 123 plate appearances. Capable enough with the bat, and honestly probably better than Tim Anderson right now, so good enough seeing him in the lineup, but not a priority at the bottom. Nick Fortes, 2,200, 2,100. You got a lot of cheap pricing to work with down here. If you, for some reason, need to somehow lower these prices, which are already shockingly low for the top several hitters in a lineup against a pretty bad pitcher. Pitcher's Park, not an ideal spot for offense. Projected, implied runs below 4 for both of these offenses. I still kind of prefer the bats. If I had to rank it, Guardians bats for sure in the first spot, given 3 guys above the magic number and all the quality up and down that they've got and the low strikeout nature and the matchup against Ryan Weathers. Then it's probably Marlins bats. Then it's probably Weathers between the 2 pitchers. And then Logan Allen is like pretty down board. It's a multi-Logan slate. We've got Logan Webb in this one. And we've got both lineups confirmed. Let me grab those. How you guys doing out there? Anybody got anything exciting going on for the weekend? I'll be heading up tomorrow. I got my buddy Brian coming up, meeting me in the city in the evening tomorrow. And we're going to see the Yanks-Dodgers game. Kind of pissed that Soto's not in the lineup. Was really looking forward to the Judge and Soto versus Mookie and Shohei of it. But should be a fun game. It's Nestor against Gavin Stone, so a better spot for Yankees offense at least. I was hoping to get Luis Gil against Glasnow. I think that's Sunday's matchup. That said, Nestor against Gavin Stone, probably a longer, more enjoyable game. A couple of runs. Not more enjoyable necessarily because I love a good pitcher's duel. But a longer game, more time to drink a couple beers, shoot the breeze, have some laughs, and hopefully watch a win. Logan Webb, 7,700 is very, very low price for Logan Webb. Just a 20.5% strikeout rate this year, but otherwise everything pretty much intact. Last year it was 22.8%, a little bit higher year before, 20.7%. Not that far off the mark from this year. 7.6% swinging strikes, just 27.8% CSW. The walks are up almost double, but that still only equals a 6.1% walk. Any issues that he's had has been between losing a couple of strikes here. Right? Couple fewer swinging strikes, couple of calls maybe, although that difference is basically just the difference in the swinging strikes. So the calls are probably fine. But walked a few additional hitters, so that's probably just those pitches out of the zone that didn't get the swing and miss on this year turned into walks. Everything else lines up perfectly fine. Just a .092% home run rate, despite 53.4% hard hits and 91.7 miles an hour of exit velo, because guess what? 2.6 degrees average launch. Last year, that was 2.35 on pretty similar looking contact on a 0.6 degree average launch. Same thing the year before on 3.1 degrees. Logan Webb is a terrific pitcher. He pitches very deep into ball games, 79 and a third innings in 13 starts. Last time out, 7 innings. Start before that, 7. 6 and 6 in the 2 starts before that. 7 innings against Cincinnati before that. 5, 6, 7, 8 strikeouts in every one of those games. A max of 5 earned runs given up in 3 2/3 against the Dodgers back on April 2nd, starting the season. Since then, he's got 3 games in which he gave up 4 earned runs, but that's the high. That's the worst starts he's had. I'm going to go so far as to say I don't exactly know why he's so cheap on DraftKings. Where 7,700 makes just innings valuable, that's a really generous price for a guy who is more than capable of coming out and giving you 7 clean innings and finding 5 or 6 strikeouts along the way. Presumably at least a shot at booking the win against Michael Lorenzen. That's a really, really good DraftKings price. 8,900 is perfectly fair. I would play that in 150 lineups. I'm playing that a bunch on FanDuel. But this is notably low. Not a great opponent for him. The Rangers, you roll this 100 times, the Rangers will beat him in a solid handful. But they're just drawing a 3.68 implied total. Vegas certainly believes. Giants a higher implied total. They're favored in this game. Good reason to believe he's got a shot at the win. Good reason to believe he's got a great reason to believe he's got a shot at the quality start on FanDuel. Lorenzen for 76.92 feels a little bit mispriced on FanDuel. 2.96 ERA, but a 4.32 xFIP. 20.4% strikeout rate is not great, with a 12% walk rate is particularly not great. You can see the difference between the ERA and the xFIP just, kind of just in the walk rate there. Not great for swinging strikes, bad CSW. Hasn't given up a ton of power or premium contact this year. 12.2 degree average launch is okay. It's not terrific. Last year it was 13.8, and on a little bit more premium contact, he had a 3.21% home run rate. He's kind of wrangled that over 9 starts, 54 2/3, but we'll see where it lands. You can see in years past he was lower last year for strikeouts on very similar stuff. 9.4% swinging, 25.7% CSW last year. That tells me that this is maybe a little bit of an illusion. 2 years ago, he had a 20.7% strikeout rate, almost matching this year's strikeout rate, but he was at 11.2% swinging that year. So that's where the additional strikeouts came from that year. This is, again, very small sample stuff that we're looking at, but I'm skeptical about the quality for Michael Lorenzen going forward. At this price, I don't really want to tangle with it, given where everybody else is priced on this slate. It just puts him in the, why are you going there for that money when you've got all this? On DraftKings, I think he's solidly on that board of, fair mid-priced options that rotate through some SP2 spots. Joker doesn't agree. Joker doesn't like him. Good boy. Why don't you lay down? We got a little ways to go here, pal. So, in the mix and match type pitcher on DraftKings, not really on my FanDuel board. Going to the Giants lineup, Elliot Ramos at the top of the lineup continues to hit the ball really, really hard. Over 108 plate appearances. He's up to 5 home runs at 207 ISO. 407 on base percentage is pretty tremendous. 15.5% barrels and 56.9% hard hits. Makes me not really care about that 31.5% strikeout rate that's popping off the page. 13.9% walk rate to go with it in the small sample. He's been tremendous. He's turning into the hitter that they expect him to be. Patty Bailey hitting second in the lineup. That puts a valuable catcher in an interesting spot. I tell you what, this Giants stack is getting more appealing as I'm talking about it. I really like these top 2 options on both sites, and particularly on DraftKings now, where you get Bailey for just $3,200. That's a playable catcher one-off. If we're just looking around for catchers in a good lineup position with skill against a gettable pitcher, Patrick Bailey one-off for $3,200 is not bad. He's got 4 home runs on the season in just 140 plate appearances, a 156 ISO. He's created runs 27% better than average. 287, 345, 443 triple slash. Last year in 353 plate appearances, he hit 7 home runs, just a 126 ISO, 78 WRC plus. So you can see the bad in there with the good that he's provided so far this year. But this spot in this lineup for the switch hitter, I like that. That is not bad. Matt Chapman following him up, 4,800, 3,000, a little bit of protection in the lineup. Chapman's got 8 home runs, hits the ball very, very hard still. The results go up and down, but the premium contact doesn't disappear. So A lot of upside out of Matt Chapman in any given slate. 4,800, 3,000, still appropriately priced. Conforto, 4,429, has a lot of lefty pop. 7 home runs on the season, 196 ISO, 127 WRC plus. He's been up and down in the triple slash. He's also missed some games in here in his attempt to return to the Michael Conforto that he once was. But he hasn't been bad over that sample of opportunities, holding down a 9.3% barrel and 43.2% hard hits as well. Jorge Soler, tons of power upside, hasn't really shown much this year. 7 home runs, weak triple slash, just a 161 ISO and a 94 WRC plus on greatly diminished premium contact. But, I mean, this guy's been this guy more often than he's been that guy in his career. So, any day now, I think we throw the switching, we start to see the power come back on for Soler. Wilmer for just 34.25. Prefer getting him against a lefty still. Typically has underperformed greatly on the season, but is a better hitter than that. Last year hit 23 home runs and had probably the best triple slash of his career, over 454 plate appearances. Yastrzemski, decent lefty bat with a little bit of pop. He's got 6 home runs and 175 this year, making pretty good contact for just 3,000, 2,600. Tato Estrada, all the way down lineup, 3,900, 3,000. He's got 8 home runs this year, a 100 WRC plus on the nose. 167 ISO from a cheap second baseman isn't bad. Capable of putting bat on ball, capable of hitting home runs, stealing you bases. Brett Wisely, capable as a lefty bat from the middle infield spots for even cheaper than Estrada is. Has 1 home run, 341, 349, 463 over his 43 chances this year. Last year, 2 home runs, 2 steals, and 131. Wasn't great. If you're going to the Rangers, so again, priority bats, by the way, just one more time. Really like that on DraftKings, just even if it's just a one-off. Really like this combination of 2 hitters up at the top and then any one of like basically any of those guys. But these 2 guys are kind of prioritized at the top of the lineup with their cheap pricing, especially here. That is uniquely cheap. Semien, Josh Smith, Jonah Heim, Adolis Garcia, Nathaniel Lowe. No Corey Seager again today. Diminishes the Rangers lineup for sure. Pushes opportunity up the board a little bit for Logan Webb for sure. They're still good, but it definitely takes a little bit of the threat down. You can see Adolis Garcia leading the team at just 5.37 in the home run model. That's Webb's impact, his ability to take home runs off the board. Semien at 4.79, and then everybody else below 3. It's pretty dramatic impact that Logan Webb has on a team's ability to hit home runs. Not saying that it becomes impossible for anyone to hit a home run against him, but he's very, very good at limiting them. Semien is slashing just 264, 326, 441. A little bit diminished for quality overall, but a 116 WRC plus. But if we're taking those 10 home runs off the board for him, the contributions have been a little bit thinner from him this year. 5,100, 3,800 in a bad spot. Not an ideal day to play Marcus Semien. Josh Smith, 42.29. You definitely include him if you're going to the Rangers. He's been very good. 290, 377, 440, 135 WRC plus. He's not a power hitter, but he's an effective enough bat from up there as long as he's hitting for average, getting on base, setting the table for everybody else. Jonah Heim, 3,900, 2,700, 6 home runs. Very good spot in the lineup for him. That said, kind of prefer Patrick Bailey on the other side, given the matchup that he's got, given the pricing. But a killer spot in the lineup for Jonah Heim. If you're stacking Rangers, you definitely include him. Do you go out of your way for him as like a one-off, as not without significant home run upside here, really? So I think it's more just a playable part in stacks, and it's a limited opportunity to stack this team. 54-35 for Garcia. He's got 13 home runs. He's got a 219 ISO, but again, not a great spot for power. And he's been diminished in his triple slash. Just 223, 278 on the front end, just creating runs 2% worse than average. It's been a little bit shakier this year for sustained quality. The counting stats have been fine, but the sustained quality is down for Garcia so far. Nathaniel Lowe, 38-28, continues to be cheap for his quality. 370 on base, creating runs 10% better than average. It's just, again, you're going to the right guy because he's a bat on ball, base hits, doubles kind of an option most days, and hits from the left side of the plate. But there's not a lot of quality in the stack today. You're not getting to him as a one-off against this pitcher or anything like that at first base. Wyatt Langford, 35-26. Really underperforming expectations across 161 rookie plate appearances. We'll see what he does going forward. Robbie Grossman, Ezequiel Duran, Leody Taveras at the bottom of the lineup. Playable parts. Between the 3, I probably prefer Duran, given the 4 positions on FanDuel, the 2 on DraftKings for the cheap pricing. A little bit of quality in that bat, but everybody has been below average, 74, 87, and 90 WRC plus marks. Each of those guys can provide some counting stats. Grossman, it's mostly in the stolen bases department. The other two kind of provide stats in both home runs and stolen bases, but the quality is mixed. It's few and far between. Logan Webb, Giants bats. Meh on the other side. Michael Lorenzen on DraftKings is probably the third best spot in this. Wouldn't play him on FanDuel, really. Not that he doesn't have the quality to beat this Giants team. He does. But that FanDuel price is just out of order with the rest of the board. And then Rangers bats like way down lower than they would normally be. Oh, Mom is going to the Yanks-Dodgers game tonight. And to shake Mookie's hand. Wow. Cool, man. That's awesome. Enjoy it. Mookie. A lot of Mookie chat in there. Every year, Mookie has made Mamba $50K. That's pretty good. Yeah, Mom, I'm always around. Every Saturday home game, I at least try and get there. Through May, we had a bunch of family events, as you guys knew. I typically talk about them on the show, but I've got that Saturday package. So anytime you guys are going to Yankee Stadium on a home Saturday, we don't know why you'd be going there if they were on the road on a Saturday, but if you're going to a Yankee game on a Saturday, odds are I'm going to be there, so let me know. Really, really interesting spot, given where Cooper Criswell is priced, particularly on the FanDuel slate. Like I said, I'm wrestling with the innings. That's the big question mark here. Last time out went 5 innings against Detroit. Struck out 5, walked 1 earned run on 4 hits. Game before that at Baltimore, ugly one, gave up 7 earned over just 4 innings. Struck out 2, walked 1. 5 1/3 against Tampa Bay. Very effective start. Gave up 2 earned on 6 hits, but struck out 6. Had a 9 strikeout game against Washington over just 5 innings. Gave up 2 earned runs. Several starts back on May 11th. A couple of 5 and 4 strikeout games in here. So he's capable of finding strikeouts. We're at a 22.7% rate for the season. 5.5% walk rate. 3.92 ERA with a better looking 3.46 xFIP underneath it. Not a great strike thrower. 7.9% swinging, 28.1% CSW, but Stuff Plus likes the arsenal. 8 points above average is very, very good. Been pretty good so far this year at keeping the ball down. Last year in 33 relief innings, had an 8-degree average launch. Was good at limiting premium contact and exit velo, as well as barrels. Resulted in a couple few home runs over just the 33 innings. This year, been a little bit better at keeping those home runs off the board, despite a little bit of an uptick in hard hits and exit velo so far. Big uptick in barrel rate. Outside of the short innings, I really see no need to worry about this spot for Criswell. Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe the White Sox have their day. Fine. I'll take that chance against a team that has been decidedly the worst lineup in all of baseball this year. The version of the lineup that we get is going to look like this. So it just seems like a really aggressively good price spot. This might be a little bit high on the median, and like I said, he doesn't have a ton of ceiling there because I think 6 innings is probably our cap. But there's probably upside to high 30s FanDuel points, 6-ish on top of that if you get the quality start bonus out of it. On DraftKings for just 7,000, it's not quite as good given this ridiculously low FanDuel price, but it's very good. He's easily competitive in that bargain bin. This is sorted by DraftKings. So you can see as far as the 7,000 or below or the 8,000 or below pitchers, second best option behind Brandon Pfaadt, who is 7,900. Michael King at exactly 8,000 maybe. But very, very effectively priced for this matchup. I don't think it's a spot where you really necessarily need to hedge unless you take a gigantic Cooper Criswell position. If you say build 75 lineups with Cooper Criswell in the starting pitcher spot on FanDuel, Maybe you take a few shots at White Sox in 5 or 6 lineups across your other ones. But they're not a priority in any way. Luis Robert, 5,200, 3,400, their best player, 41 plate appearances. He's got 3 home runs at 275 ISO. Hot commodity on the trade market. Him and Garrett Crochet are both allegedly available. Corey Julks, Nicky Lopez in the top 2 spots. Julks has been okay over his 61 plate appearances, but not a priority bat in any sense. Nicky Lopez, back control option, 2,800, 2,400, 3 positions on FanDuel. That flexibility and price puts him in play for those like, shit, I built a lineup that has an expensive pitcher, 3 expensive Dodgers, 3 expensive Astros, and now I need to find a couple cheap guys just to plug in along the way, and I don't really care who they are. Nicky Lopez is on that list because he is a 3 base hits and correlated scoring option on any given slate. It's just he hasn't really done that a lot. 244, 306, 280. But bat on ball skills for sure. Low strikeout guy. Get on ahead of Luis Robert, and maybe we see what happens. Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn, both kind of low end. 5 home runs apiece for them. Sheets does have a 111 WRC+. He's getting on at a 333 clip to keep him alive, but not a great option. Vaughn has just been pretty atrocious. Paul DeJong has 10 home runs, cheap shortstop option with some believable power upside. 6.77 is number 2 on this board. 10.08 for Luis Robert leads the team. But are we really going out of our way for Paul DeJong? Outside of the home runs, 222, 276, 439. Dead on league average for run creation. 33.7% strikeout rate to help Cooper Criswell. Oscar Colas, Corey Lee, Lennon Sosa at the bottom of the lineup. Pretty much afterthoughts. If you're building a bunch of White Sox stacks, of course, you can use, let's say, Corey Lee for a cheap catcher option. You can use Oscar Colas if you have any belief in his left-handed prospect pedigree that has yet to arrive in the major league level. 2,200, 2,100 is effectively very, very cheap. He might as well be free. Lennon Sosa really doesn't do much with the bat. He's got a home run this year in 59 plate appearances. Again, playable part, but I'd rather just have Nicky Lopez from the top of the lineup, odd as that might be to say, for 100 more. And then the Red Sox on the other side. Garrett Crochet, fairly the top pitcher on the board in terms of projection. 13 starts. He's got a 33.7% strikeout rate, 14.3% swinging strike rate, 29.8% CSW. Been dominant in a lot of spots this season. Had a couple blips along the way. 3.26% home run rate, but that comes on just 35.5% hard hits, 87.2 miles an hour of exit velo, 5.4% barrels. Very difficult to square up. 0.093 whip, doesn't really walk that many people for how many people he strikes out. He's been absolutely tremendous. We're seeing a little bit of power upside from these two. Rafi Devers 7.63, 7.19 in the home run model for Tyler O'Neill. What we are seeing is like this group of hitters still drawing decent projections against Garrett Crochet. Little bit of ability reflected from Rod Refsnyder's quality against lefties in there. 346, 414, 529 overall for Refsnyder. 117 plate appearances, 164 WRC+. It's been very good for them, and this is the right spot for him going up against the lefty. He's a platoon journeyman type of a guy. Connor Wong, right-handed catcher, showing a ton of quality so far this year. So some elevated projections for those two guys. Jarren Duran, no real issues lefty-lefty, but this is a very, very high-end lefty. Rafi Devers, no real issues for him. He's the one I trust more in between the two top of the lineup lefties. Duran for 51.33 is not ineffectively priced. He's fine, but probably the lower priority out of the top 5 hitters. Devers has 13 home runs. O'Neill's got 11. That's where the quality really is in this lineup. 252 ISO for O'Neill, 282 for Devers. Tons of run creation there. Jamie Westbrook at the dead minimum, 2,000, 2,100 across sites. Hit a home run in his first 8 plate appearances. Right-handed back going up against the lefty. I guess he's got that going for him. Jamie Westbrook is going to be 29 in 10 days. Oh, he was in the Yankees system last year? How about that? For the Yankees AAA team last year, 496 plate appearances, 21 home runs. That was playing as a 28-year-old in AAA, though. This year is a 29-year-old in AAA, 5 home runs, 2 steals, and 198 plate appearances. This is not a major league caliber hitter that we have to worry about. He does have a good spot in the lineup, though. If the Red Sox start really rolling Garrett Crochet, Westbrook could get involved from the dead minimum. Garrett Cooper, 28-23, righty power bat, who hasn't really shown much over 109 plate appearances this year. Typically, in the past, good against lefties, but this is a really high-end strikeout pitcher. Cooper looks like more of a strikeout target for Crochet. Bobby Dahlbeck, also looking like a premium strikeout target for Crochet down the bottom of the lineup. Another righty bat with... Look, there's any given slate, 3 true outcomes hitter type of quality from Bobby Dahlbeck here, but we're really, really limited in being able to see that anywhere in his major league sample. You're just going to have to trust me that it exists. But for 21 across sites, if you're building a bunch of Red Sox stacks, he should probably be in some if he's in the lineup. This is still the projected version. If he's hitting higher up in the lineup, then more reason to get to him. It's a very, very cheap price for a guy who does have significant home run upside, but has not been at all good in the show. Outside of what he did 4 years ago now? I still do believe in his talent, but he's 28 now and really not getting another shot with this Red Sox team. Just needs a new organization, honestly. It was 2021, so 3 years ago. 25 home runs in 453 plate appearances in the show for the Red Sox. Slashed just 240, 298, 494. Struck out at a 34.4% clip. Like I said, 3 true outcomes. He's never walked enough in the show to really qualify for the 3 true outcomes label. But based on everything that he did throughout the minor leagues, he should walk a little bit more given regular plate appearances. But we're dealing with a part-time, cheapo, home run option from late in the lineup at best. Cedric Rafael at 33-28, plays 4 positions on FanDuel, 2 key positions on DraftKings, 7 home runs, 8 steals. We're just getting counting stat upside out of him. Boy, Garrett Crochet, top of the board, expensive on FanDuel, cheap on DraftKings at $8,900. There's a ton of value there. Cooper Criswell, number 2. And I could argue that could even flip given the $4,800 price difference between the two on FanDuel with a 5-point projection difference. This is a significantly higher ceiling for Garrett Crochet, but that is a tremendous price difference. Buys you a full Aaron Judge. I think that is the price of Aaron Judge today. Something to consider. White Sox bats, not really a good option. Red Sox bats, a little bit better of an option, I think. Especially if you get Crochet getting really, really popular. The Red Sox are at least on the board to draw a minor position to kind of angle in against that Crochet ownership. I prefer the Crochet side of it. I think he succeeds here, has a big strikeout day, and does his thing. 26.4% strikeout rate for this projected version of the Red Sox lineup. Some very high small samples in there, but also very low small sample. But yeah, I think the top 5 and then some odds and ends down here would be in play for just a few shares. I'd still rather have a big share of Crochet over here. Call it a hedge if you want, but it's more of you can target the popularity that I would expect on him on DraftKings. On FanDuel, that's a different story. He's 10-9 over there, so he's just going to get whatever ownership he gets and probably not be runaway freight train kind of popular. Mariners bats going up against Daniel Lynch the 4th. Okay, it is drawing his stats. Let me just pull them up so I can actually look at them on... He's thrown 12 innings this year. Oh, I know what it is. On the old year stats boards, he's just Daniel Lynch. And on this year, I'm not going to bother changing that. I got to change it in 4 spots. So for the 2024 stats board, it's not finding him because he's Daniel Lynch the 4th on that, and this doesn't have the replacement built into it either. In previous seasons, he was just Daniel Lynch, so it does find him on those boards that don't get updated because they're just static. They exist in previous years and no changes. Last year in 52 1/3, 9 starts, 15.2% strikeout rate, a 4.64 ERA, a 5.33 xFIP. Good swinging strike rate, but a bad CSW for that many swinging strikes. Got dinged for power pretty significantly in the small sample. Not for hard hits or exit velo, really, but that's a lot of home runs. 3.50% home run rate on a lot of exit velo, a lot of hard hits, a lot of barrels in a larger sample. I think this is more accurate to who he is. Again, a pretty good swinging strike rate, but a bad CSW. High walk rate, low strikeout rate. 5.13 ERA, 4.30 xFIP. And then this year in his 2 starts, 3 games, 12 innings, 1.50 ERA, but a 4.91 xFIP, striking out 17.4, walking 4.3. That amounts to a 5-inning start against the Twins in his most recent game. Struck out 2, gave up 2 homers, and 3 runs, 2 earned on 5 hits. 2-inning relief appearance against the Angels. Got all 5 hitters out, but didn't strike out anybody, didn't walk anybody, didn't give up any hits or runs. 6 strikeout game to begin the season on May 5th. So he pitched on May 5th, May 9th, May 30th. 19 batters faced, gave up 2 hits, struck out 6, walked 2, no runs. Has he pitched in the minors this season? AAA this year, 9 starts, 45 and a third, 4.76 ERA, 4.71 xFIP, striking out just 17.3% of AAA hitters at age 27. I think we could safely scratch Daniel Lynch off of any lists, whether he's got a 4th on his name or not. On the other side, Bryce Miller does get really interesting. 3.18 ERA, a 3.64 xFIP, 11.5% swinging strikes, 25.7% strikeout rate, 6.9% walks. Giving up a little bit of power, a lot of premium contact this season. Last year, there's also a lot of premium contact in his 25 starts, 131 and a third. Slightly lower home run rate. 4.32 ERA with a 4.31 xFIP, 22.2% strikeout rate, 11.4% swinging. This was an effective rookie season. He's improved in a lot of ways on some of those numbers. Still room to improve in terms of the contact that he allows, but I think that comes. Lower walk rate last year? Yeah, 4.8% walk rate last year, up to 6.9% this year. A little bit of a blip there in a small sample, but a very high-end pitcher for just 8,500. Feels cheap on DraftKings. 97 is correct on FanDuel, and you can see, again, the quality does come through in the model where he's projected on both sites compared to where some of those other guys are. Kansas City, decent enough lineup. They could beat him here, but you could easily beat them, and you can find a couple bonus strikeouts along the way. This group's got a 19.3% strikeout rate this year. They had a 20.9% last year. Not the biggest strikeout bunch in the world, but you've got a couple of key targets back here. You get those guys twice each. That puts you on the right footing to find, your way to 7 strikeouts from the rest of these guys. But everybody else in the lineup in the teens for strikeout rate. So not the easiest target in the world, but all of that, I think, is baked into that 85 on DraftKings. You've got other options for sure for SP2 shares. There's all kinds of options on today's board, but that's one worth considering. 97, I think you can throw that a few times on FanDuel if you want to. It's just he's just correctly priced at the top of the board with everybody else. Mariners bats, definitely showing some quality, a little bit of power upside against Daniel Lynch, probably a little bit more even than what they might be showing here. We've got the confirmed lineup in. JP Crawford, a 5.55 in the home run model for just 3,700, 2,900 across sites. He's only got 4 this season. He's only got a 300 on base, more crucially. Creating runs 5% worse than average. Last year, he hit 19 home runs, but most importantly, got on at a 380 clip in the leadoff spot. 134 WRC plus last year. It's kind of key for him to be a correlated scoring option. You got to get on base, hitting for better average. But an interesting enough bat if you're going to this team against Daniel Lynch. They're obviously not worried about him at all, lefty-lefty in this situation. So I like the option for JP Crawford off the top of the lineup. Dylan Moore, 4,000, 2,900, fills 4 positions on FanDuel, 2 on DraftKings for the money, 6 home runs, 9 steals. The triple slash is cooling off. The ISO is still pretty solid at 203, 119 WRC plus. Has always been capable of holding down an okay on base percentage and providing a little bit of infrequent power here and there. 8% barrels, 42% hard hits so far this year. A reasonable enough option for the money, 6.71 in the home run model. Julio Rodriguez, 5,100, 3,400, 5 home runs, 0.079 ISO. This needs to improve. 14 steals, up to 266, 312, 345, 95 WRC plus. Gradually getting a little bit better. 8.5% barrels, 49.2% hard hits. We're not tragically off, at least from the hard hits. We're still down pretty significantly in barrels. but I think we're probably trending back upward. Ty France for 36, 3,000 across sites. 7 home runs on the season for him. Not really a home run hitter, but every now and then runs into odd output for power. What's stranger is that he's not really hitting for average, not really getting on base at what we've come to expect from Ty France. He's more that kind of a hitter, I think, in the long term. 3,600, 3,000. Playable, given the cleanup spot in the lineup, right-handed bat against the lefty. Cal Raleigh, 10.62 to lead the team in the home run model. He's got 11 on the season with a 198 ISO. Tremendous power bat. Falters around basically every other aspect of hitting, but tremendous power bat from both sides of the plate. Mitch Garver, good righty power bat. Mitch Haniger, good righty power bat. 2,900, 2,600 for Garver. 3,200, 2,600 for Haniger. 6 home runs apiece for the two righties. 152 and a 121 ISO, both in the 80s for WRC Plus and the low 80s at that. Neither guy really performing up to his expectations or standards, but does have a little bit of sneaky right-handed pop late in the lineup. Victor Robles found his way to this team. 111, 286, 111 across 36 plate appearances for Washington to start the campaign. 2,800, 2,200 for a guy with a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed. Not completely dead at the bottom of the lineup. Putting him together with Ryan Bliss down the bottom of the lineup is also really interesting, given that Bliss has a ton of speed. 2 semi-effective wraparound plays from the bottom. You're just don't expect consistency, but they're playable parts down there, especially if you get carried away building a bunch of Mariners lineups in a spot where they've got the second highest run total on the board. Not uninteresting for the Mariners today. You just got to have faith that these guys outperform what they've done this year and get back more toward the quality that they've shown in spurts this year and that they had in previous seasons. These two guys are interesting down here. I'm glad Robles ended up on a good team. He might end up getting squeezed out of this opportunity very quickly as they make more acquisitions. They're basically pretty firmly on the record as saying, hey, this is not going to be our lineup all season. We're going to go find somebody like Luis Robert and plug him into this team. Given how good their pitching staff is, they owe a responsibility to their fans to improve this offense. So Robles might lose that job, but he could be part of that equation too. Once upon a time, a very highly regarded prospect, just never really effectively landed, but kind of interesting. If you're going to the Royals, I don't necessarily hate the option. Given the power that Miller's allowed this season, there's a little bit there. They're at a 4.32 for what that's worth, 4.33 on their side of this game. So Vegas doesn't consider them a totally dead spot for runs. You can see some pretty significant power marks. Nobody above the magic number, but Bobby Witt, Sal Perez chasing it. 8.2 for Vinny, 8.49 for Nelson. Not far off. The big dip is MJ Melendez as the models caught up to current year output. Just 5 home runs for him. The contact profile is down a little bit, but still decent. There's some good power still there. Just not putting bat on ball enough. Not able to exploit that premium contact. 164, 227. This is just atrocious. 322, 158 ISO, 50. Half as good as the league average player at creating runs so far this year. Starting to get pretty ugly for MJ. But a regular fixture in the lineup from the left side, there's quality there. Everybody above him in the lineup is a better option. Everybody below him is not as good an option. Michael Garcia for 46-33 has 5 home runs and 14 steals, 99 WRC plus. Effective enough if you're going to this team. Not overly appealing as like a one-off. Bobby Witt is definitely a one-off candidate. That said, he's very, very expensive, 6,200, 4,500 against a guy that I think is a good pitcher. You can see the quality in the home run upside for Witt. You can see the premium contact, 16.5% barrels, 51% hard hits over here. You also get these two guys with pretty significant barrel rates, and Sal at least holding up a very good hard hit rate. Witt's got 11 home runs and 19 steals, a 242 ISO. His creator runs 55% better than average. One of my favorite hitters in this lineup, Vinny Pasquantino, very, very solid for premium contact. Very, very low strikeout numbers from Vinny Pasquantino. Tons of good bat-on-ball skills. Tons of well-struck baseballs coming out of this hitter. 4,900, 3,000. He's too cheap for his quality. 7 home runs, fine, whatever. 243, 313, 433. I just continue to think all of this goes up. It's got to. Based on what he does over here, the rest of this has to go up. He's got a 190 ISO. His creator runs 5% better than average. He's been good. I just think he could be better. 54.32 for Sal is a fair price across sites. Velasquez for 37-31 has 8 home runs on the season and 189 plate appearances, a 198 ISO, pretty good barrel rate at 11%. Was obviously better in the small sample last year for power output. He hit 17 home runs in just 179 plate appearances. That continues to be ridiculous. 352 ISO in that sample last year. Renfroe dramatically underperforming for this team this season. Adam Frazier never really was all that good. Didn't really have much expectations to underperform, but effectively meeting the expectations for low performance. Kyle Isbell, 4 home runs, 4 steals. A dart throw at best, 63 WRC plus for him, 72 for Frazier, 71 for Hunter Renfroe. It's really a 6-man lineup, and you could argue that it's a 5-man lineup. Top 5 is playable. Mix and match through the rest of it. I got to go Bryce Miller up at the top. I think, especially with that effective DraftKings price, I think he's the best option in this game. Even with the Mariners looking good, ranking out well on our stacks board, and drawing one of the highest totals on the board, I put Miller slightly ahead of that. I think he can win this game. Then Mariners bats. Then Royals bats. And you're a madman if you play Daniel Lynch. Even against the Mariners, a team that I've targeted regularly. We beat this team the other day with Joey Estes, and then we came right back and used JP Sears and had another effective day against that team. I think it's a different animal with Daniel Lynch. Even given his good swinging strike rate, everything else sucks. I think it's a targetable spot. Ah, boy. There's just no rest on this slate. I wish this game was at Coors Field, because then I could just kind of breeze through the pitching options. But as is, we got to talk about Lance Lynn. Challenging slate. I love it. So Lance Lynn against probably the second worst lineup in baseball. He's very cheap, 7,400, 7,500. He's not pitched well, but he's not been completely off. He's not ruined on the mound, right? People will argue that Lance Lynn is just completely shot, and that's really not true. He's just not the guy he once was. He's not the bulldog that's going to give you 7 innings and then not want to come out of the game anymore. He's not giving you monster strikeout totals anymore. Strikeout high of 7 over 12 starts, just a 21.2% strikeout rate, 9.3% walks. Just last year, that was 23.6% and 8.3% walks. Year before, 24.2 and 3.7% walks in a smaller sample, but a healthy enough sample. Swinging strikes have gone down year over year fairly significantly. That's where your strikeouts go. Hasn't been terrible for home runs, barrels. You can see the diminishment in stuff, 82.47 by stuff plus, roughly 18 points below league average. A lot of 5 strikeout games in a row. Had a 4 strikeout game in his most recent one that was at Philadelphia. Gave up 4 unearned runs on 3 hits over 4 innings. Struck out 4, walked 2. I mean, it's not like a fantasy meltdown necessarily, but only 4 innings is not ideal. And obviously he did give up 4 runs, whether they're earned or not. Still gave up 4 runs. 3 runs, just 1 earned in the start before that at Cincinnati. He's very good at giving up runs while not getting charged with them. 5 strikeouts, 3 walks, 1 home run. Just the 1 earned on 5 hits. Went 6 in that one. Went 6 against Baltimore. Actually had a pretty effective start against Baltimore. Yet again, gave up an unearned run. 5 strikeouts, no walks. 2 hits, 1 unearned run. That was it over 6. That's amazing. Over his last 3 starts, he's given up 8 runs. Only 1 of them earned. That's really difficult to do. If you stretch it out to include 3 starts before that run, going back to since the beginning of May, in those 3 starts, he gave up 4 earned runs in each of them, but in 2 of those games, he gave up an unearned run. That is absolutely incredible. So that's, what did I say it was? 8, 12, 22 runs, and only 13 of them earned in his last 6 starts. That is actually amazing. Strikeout high of 5 over that stretch. He hit 5 4 times, and he hit 4 in the other 2 starts. I guess if he can manage to keep any Rockies runs unearned, it gives him a little bit of a bump. Like I said, I did get involved. He was projecting out for too many innings. I pulled it down to, this is like a 6-inning projection now. 7,400, 7,500 across sites. He is effectively priced. It is a spectacular matchup. I just think he's going to get popular, and with all the other options, I'd rather go in different directions. I really would. Let the public have this one. If it succeeds and beats you, it beats you. But I think the public is going to grab Lance Lynn against the Rockies and leave some of those other low-cost quality options on the board. He's very, very playable here. You could make it so that he projects out higher. I wouldn't take him lower. There's just also not a ton of trust for Lance Lynn anymore. On the other side of the lineup of the game here, you're getting Michael Toglia from the bottom spot in the lineup with a 10.73 in the home run model. Just out of sheer morbid curiosity and time wasting. I just want to see, this isn't their lineup obviously, but like if I move Toglia to the 2 spot, that becomes a 14 in the home run model. Dude's got power. Reason being, if you're not sure why I did that, more plate appearances up at the top of the lineup, right? So if he gets an additional shot at hitting a home run based on a full additional plate appearance, obviously that number has to go up. Right now, he's got 4 home runs in 240 ISO over 52 plate appearances, 53.3% hard hits, 13.3% barrel rate. I need the minor leagues, please. There we go. 135 plate appearances in AAA. What is it? Albuquerque. PCL team, a lot of elevation there, a lot of similar effects to Coors Field. 9 home runs in 135 plate appearances, a 294 ISO, 125 WRC plus. In 367 AAA plate appearances last year, he hit 16 home runs, had a 218 ISO, 102 WRC plus. Going back into 2022 in AA, 423 plate appearances, hit 23 home runs, added 7 more in 75 plate appearances in AAA that season. In the major leagues, he's only got 10 home runs. 4 of them came this year in just 52 opportunities. 10 home runs in 324 plate appearances, a 156 ISO all told, slashing just 175, 231, 331 with a 39 WRC plus, and there's your problem. Not a good hitter, but a lot of lurking, lingering power down here. Switch hitter. I actually had it in my head that he was a righty, but he's a switch hitter. Top of the lineup, Charlie Blackmon, 4,200, 2,900. Kind of underperforming, but he's on the back end of the career at this point. Low end in terms of premium contact over the last few seasons, right about where he's supposed to be so far this year. It's resulted in just 2 home runs, a 130 ISO, just an 80 WRC plus because we're only getting on at a 314 clip. Last year he was more valuable, he got on better. 363 on base last year, pushed him up to a 105 WRC plus. Everything else was about where it is this year in terms of power output and the ability to strike the ball effectively. Doesn't strike out a lot, draws some walks, but we're trending toward the back end here with Charlie. Ezequiel Tovar, 8 home runs, 4 stolen bases, a 176 ISO, creating runs 8% better than average. Not bad. Ryan McMahon, 10 home runs on the season, 273, 360, 449. Very effective triple slash. One of the better stretches of 263 plate appearances of Ryan McMahon's entire career. 5,000, 2,900 against this version of Lance Lynn. You can take your shots there. 10.46 in the home run model. Take your shots on Ryan McMahon. Freudian slip, I guess that means you got to play Lance Lynn. Elias Diaz, an effective catcher option, 4,400, 2,900, the everyday cleanup hitter for this team right now, 302, 350, 444, creating runs 9% better than average. 5 homers, limited output in terms of premium contact, but not a high strikeout guy. Doesn't draw that many walks, so a lot of balls in play out of the catcher. There's value in that, definitely when he's hitting behind a couple guys that are hopefully setting the table for him. Brendan Rodgers hasn't been bad. We're up to 273, 307, 389, 3 home runs. 83 WRC plus isn't great. 116 ISO isn't great. But encouraging signs in the triple slash, encouraging signs in the 45.8% hard hit rate. For a guy who once upon a time was supposed to be, a pretty big deal for this team, it's okay. Brenton Doyle for 39, 31 effective counting stats, 5 home runs, 16 steals. Dead on league average for run creation. Eloyers Montero, another interesting, potentially frisky power bat late in the lineup. 3,100, 2,600 across sites. Just 3 home runs in 201 plate appearances in the show this year. That is not very good home run hitting output. So why do we think he could hit a home run? Well, He had 11 and 307 plate appearances last year in the show with a 183 ISO and really his first significant sample in the majors. In addition to that, in AAA last year, in 163 plate appearances, he had 15 home runs. So that's 26 across 400 and change. That's pretty good. In 297 plate appearances in 2022 in AAA, he hit 15 home runs. He added 6 more in the show, over 185 in that season. 22 AA home runs in 379 chances in 2021. Got a long track record of hitting for power while not doing all that much else exceptional through the minor leagues. So I'm a believer still. I'd like to see it start arriving more at the major league level with at least a little bit of consistency. But I'm still a believer that we could see a little bit of righty power develop for Montero. Jake Cave for 29-21 is cheap. That's about all he is. Every now and then he can get involved. He's got a minor amount of pop and a little bit of speed. 5 home runs each of the last 2 years, 3 stolen bases last year, 2 stolen bases the year before, 203 plate appearances, 177 plate appearances. It's like 10 home runs and 8 stolen bases guy if you gave him a full season. Austin Gomber for 6,300, 7,100. Shorter slates other days, maybe we'd be talking about him maybe a little bit, considering how bad the Cardinals have been overall, considering where he's priced. But on a day with so many different options in that price range, littered just up and down the board by projection, I don't think you want to go down here. The Cards are also drawing a healthy run total against, 4.61 implied total for St. Louis, despite their underperformance. So going all the way back to the beginning of the show, that question about Mason Wynn, yeah, absolutely. I think he's under consideration. Righty back going up against a weak lefty. Gomber's got a 17.1% strikeout rate, walking 7.9%. The 3.06 ERA is certainly deceptive. 4.37 xFIP is much more the real number here with this pitcher. Significantly below average measurements by Stuff Plus. He's given up a lot of premium contact and home run power. It's been similarly gettable in larger samples in years past. Similarly low end for strikeouts, bad ERA and xFIP, a lot of home runs, a lot of premium contact. Super targetable Austin Gomber here. It's just you got to have faith in the Cards. Wynn himself has been very good, getting on at a 360 clip to set the table, hitting 311, also has 3 home runs, 8 steals. Very good option off the top at shortstop, particularly if you're stacking up Cardinals in this spot. Alec Burleson, lefty, 3,100, 2,800. What's his lefty look like? That's going to be an important spot. Not great. Does have 2 home runs in just 51 plate appearances this year against lefties, but we're slashing 188, 220, 313 in the split, 125 ISO, creating runs at a 52 WRC plus clip. Let's see what it looks like for the career, though. In the career, it's just 83 total plate appearances against lefties. So this is really the only year he's gotten regular plate appearances against same-handed pitching. He's got those 2 home runs that he hit this year. And the triple slash goes up to 218, 256, 308. The ISO actually goes down to 0.090. WRC plus climbs slightly to a 60. So it's kind of an odd fit. Why wouldn't you go like maybe Ivan Herrera in that spot? Or just go with like Goldie or Arenado there? I don't really get hitting Burleson second against a lefty, given those numbers. He's been good otherwise. 116 WRC plus, 275, 309, 445. He's got 8 home runs, but only 2 of them again against lefties in 50 some odd plate appearances. He's capable enough against a low strikeout lefty like Gomber. It's not exactly the same thing, but that does kind of diminish the quality there. Paul Goldschmidt for just 2,800 on FanDuel. Nolan Arenado for just 2,800 on FanDuel as well. 39 and 37 is equally cheap for both of those hitters on the DraftKings slate. And then on DraftKings, you get Nolan Gorman for just 3,800. FanDuel's done the right thing and elevated him back up to 3,400 to make it a little bit more challenging to just roster whoever you want from this team. But DraftKings is still letting you just take your shots at whoever. Gorman has a 17.9% barrel rate and 14 home runs over 215 plate appearances, a 262 ISO. He's back to doing everything that we expect of him. He's always going to be a high strikeout, high walk, 3 true outcomes type of a hitter, but tons and tons of power at second base for that price. That's great. Definitely playable here if you're going to this team. 12.32 to lead the team in the home run model. These two guys, I struggle with it, right? We are seeing a little bit of return to form. We're up to 7 home runs for Goldie, 6 home runs for Arenado, 128 and 123 ISOs are still way off the mark. Arenado at league average for run creation. Goldie still 10 points below. But all of that is starting to get cooked into these prices now. They're no longer too high priced for what they've done this season. Arenado still doesn't strike out a lot. Goldie's striking out a lot more this year, but Arenado is not. We're just diminished greatly in terms of what his premium contact looks like. I think his eye is still there, but the bat has maybe slowed down like a crucial half a mile an hour or whatever the case may be. As I've said a couple times this week, very, very low rated in that length of swing versus speed of swing metrics from StatCast. So I think that explains a lot of what we're seeing with the actual quality of contact diminishing while strikeouts haven't gone up. The catcher definitely playable, 33-26. I just kind of, like I said, I kind of wish they had slotted him up there. I guess they just wanted to keep the staggering of the lineup in place. But he's hit 3 home runs, 260, 325, 356. Dead on league average for run creation. Jose Finnerman, over 25 plate appearances, really hasn't done very much. He's the dead min on DraftKings second base and third base. I would much rather have Gorman and Arenado there, but you're obviously getting a discount price-wise. 21, he fits in at shortstop on FanDuel. I'd rather have Mason win 9 times out of 10. Brendan Donovan, 3,500, 2,900 across sites. Lefty bat, not a ton of quality lefty from him. Not a ton of production overall this season, pretty diminished. Michael Ciani at the bottom of the lineup, another lefty, 2,300 across sites. 1 home run, 6 steals so far this season. 51 WRC plus and 134 plate appearances. The quality continues to be from like here up. But like underpriced. All 3 of those guys are underpriced. And honestly, so is Mason Wynn. It's a very playable Cardinals team. They're probably going to get a little popular today. I do not want to have to rank this game. Lance Lynn. Don't love how he stacks up against the other similarly priced guys on the slate, especially if he's popular. But Lance Lynn, Cardinals bats, Rockies bats, Austin Gomber's not really on the board for me. 3 games to go, 5:30. We'll probably hit the 6 o'clock mark, which makes it nearly a 3-hour show. 7:05 start today, though. We're all right. We got time. Angels lineup is in. Doesn't look like the Astros is. So we talked about them. Somebody asked, is it a Houston day? Way up at the beginning of the show. I do believe they're the top-ranked team on the stacks board. They look pretty tremendous. Even with no Kyle Tucker in the lineup, they still look pretty terrific to me. Going up against Griff Canning, who is one of my favorite targets as a pitcher. 8.9% barrels allowed, 41.1% hard hits, 90.8 miles an hour of exit velo on a 15-degree average launch angle. 4% home runs allowed so far this year, 4.69 ERA with a 4.92 xFIP. Strikeouts are back down at 16.4%. He walks too many, so he gives away a couple free opportunities every game. He's allowed a 4% home run rate on the season. At least 1 home run in each of his last 4 starts, including a 2 home run game against, this same Houston team. Struck out 2, walked 3, gave up 2 homers. Just the 2 earned runs, though. 5 hits over 5 innings. Struck out 5, 2 walks, gave up a homer, 3 earned runs on 9 hits to the Yanks. That should have been a bigger day for the Yankees. I think there were a couple key spots where somebody left a bunch of guys on base. 6 2/3 at Seattle. Effective start. 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, just a home run allowed. That was the only earned run. 4 hits. Pitched deep into that one. That wasn't bad. I'm sure that was an okay DFS day for where he was priced, but everybody's getting that Seattle team today. Or this year. Today. As I was saying, everybody's getting that Seattle team, and I knew the rest of my sentence was supposed to be this year, but in my head, I started thinking maybe that is justification to play Daniel Lynch against Seattle today, and then we just landed on the word today at the end of the sentence accidentally. I don't think it's a good reason to play Daniel Lynch. I really don't. I think he gets got by that team. There's also, that's the rain game, by the way, that Seattle KC game. So we're not playing Griff Canning at all at pitcher. It's just a matter of how much do we buy in on the Astros, how much do we believe. Question about whether or not Alex Bregman's going to be in the lineup. He is expected to be. Kyle Tucker is not expected to be. Doesn't look like it's confirmed on Underdog either. Soto considered day-to-day. That's good news. Max Scherzer beginning a rehab assignment on Sunday. That's interesting. So the Astros, assuming no Kyle Tucker, but assuming yes Alex Bregman. Bregman actually is the home run pick of the day. He's up to 9 on the season. 174 ISO. Nearly back to league average for run creation. We're up to 230, 290, 404. Still some way to go in the slash line. But signs of life. Thankfully. I didn't want to have to write Alex Bregman off. We were always hanging on to our low strikeout rate, balls in play, et cetera, theory. And it's starting to work out. 4,100, 3,200, still very cheap across both sites. Significantly cheap on DraftKings. 52 for Altuve, 35 on FanDuel, 53, 37 for Jordan Alvarez. Tons and tons of quality from those two players. 9 home runs, 8 steals from Altuve. 12 home runs, 3 steals from Alvarez. 201 ISO out of the big man. 154 ISO out of the small man. 287, 342, 441. Last year, significantly better. 311, 393, 522. So he's underperforming a little bit in his slash line. He's definitely underperforming the power output. Run creation is down a little bit, but this guy is still a pretty tremendous player, and I think we've got upside right back to being this guy. Give it a couple of weeks and we're fine. So I think just a little bit of a blip there for Altuve. Jake Myers, especially if he's hitting cleanup, is kind of interesting to me. He's just 27 on FanDuel. He's 3,000 on DraftKings. He made my placeholder lineup work, so I got to at least say nice things about him. 171 plate appearances. He's kind of been the replacement Chas McCormick in this lineup. 266, 335, 442, 175 ISO, 124 WRC plus, 6 homers, 4 steals. Doesn't hit the ball as hard regularly as McCormick has over the past couple of seasons, but he's been doing well in this spot. It's a weird opportunity for him if he's hitting cleanup, but I like him in that role in this lineup today. Jeremy Pena, 4,000, 2,900, 305, 339, 418 season so far, over 255 plate appearances, 5 home runs, 9 steals, creating runs 18% better than average. Doesn't crush the ball when he makes contact, but a lot of balls in play, 16.5% strikeouts and 3.5% walks. Just equals a ton of balls in play. That yields hits, that's yields on base opportunities, and so on and so forth. Jainer Diaz, just 3,500, has a 49.4% hard hit rate. Last year, 43.9%. This year, 6.9% barrels. Last year, it was 12.2%. Hit his 6th home run of the year, I want to say yesterday, might have been the day before. 216 plate appearances, 250, 278, 397. The slash line came down after his hot start, but the power is very real. I think he's got upside to be better than what this full 216 plate appearance sample looks like. Not necessarily the elite option that we saw over his first month or so of this season, but somewhere in between, trending toward that higher end guy, I think is definitely the case. Interesting option here. If he's in the lineup, Victor Caratini, that's your sneaky angle for maybe some home run upside that nobody else is going to roster from what is going to be a popular Astros team. If he's in the lineup without Jainer Diaz for some reason, then he probably just becomes the easily clicked on catcher for a cheap price and he'll get more popular. If they're both in the lineup, most people are going to click that. Caratini's got very similar power upside. 8.3% barrels and 45.8% hard hits across his 91 plate appearances this year. 5% barrels, 44.7% hard hits across 226 last year. He hit 7 home runs while slashing 259, 327, 383, 124 ISO, 94 WRC plus. None, outside of the power output, none of that is great, but it's not inept either in terms of the slash line. Year before, 199, 300, 342, not a great slash line, but hit 9 home runs in 314 plate appearances, 143 ISO. There's a little bit of sneaky bat on ball, hard hit quality there. He doesn't strike out a ton. He's improved the strikeout rate from 19.9 last year, but that's not a bad strikeout rate. Had a better walk rate last year. So Caratini, somebody to keep in mind, 7.22 in the home run model behind Diaz by 0.08 of a home run. Not that that's what that's actually measured by. This isn't measuring per home run. Jose Abreu, 24-22, really, really bad this season. Was really, really bad for most of last season, and he's outdoing himself over 101 plate appearances this year. 117, 168, 160. -5 WRC plus. Ouch. Mauricio Dubon, 29.25, fills 3 positions cheaply on FanDuel. Just another outfielder on DraftKings at that price. That's not ideal. This is a little bit more interesting, but you're not really going to him at second base over Altuve. You're not really going to him at third base over Bregman that many times. So really, he's just kind of just another outfielder on the FanDuel slate. 2 home runs, 2 steals, capable of getting involved and contributing. If he's higher up in the lineup, he's a little bit more interesting. Framber Valdez. Just an 18.9% strikeout rate from him this year. 3.95 ERA, but a 3.42 xFIP. Not all that far off the mark. Last year it was 3.45, 3.39. Year before it was 2.82 with a 3. But we're not that crazy far off of previous seasons in terms of the run numbers. 10.1% swinging strike rate is definitely down over the last 2 seasons. Appreciably down, but I mean, this isn't a complete disaster. 27.7% CSW, just kind of down in line with the lack of swinging strikes. Walks are not that far off the mark from the last 2 seasons. Strikeouts are down. That's the interesting part. 109 rating by Stuff Plus, though. Significantly above average rating by in terms of the full arsenal. Just a 4.4% barrel rate is lower than these 2 seasons. Negative 2.5 degree average launch. We're back to that kind of quality. 2022 and 2021, he was negative 3.6 and negative 5 something. Last year, it jumped up to 4.2. You didn't see a major uptick in home run output. You don't see that this year with it back down at negative 2.5. So it's another guy where I don't really care about the hard hits and the exit velo. Some of this has led to balls in play getting through the infield this year and turning into hits against. That's where some of the additional runs have come from this year. So there's a little bit of bad luck and happenstance baked in. Honestly, for Framber, even more than a lot of other guys in baseball. Going up against an extraordinarily targetable Angels team with a 23.2% strikeout rate that most of their quality, when they do provide quality, comes from home run hitting. Looks like a pretty tremendous opportunity to grab some cheap Framber Valdez. 8,200 on DraftKings, 7,900 on FanDuel. That is very, very cheap for who this guy's been over the last handful of seasons. Last time out, just 1 earned run over 7 innings. He also typically does pitch very deep into ball games. 54 and 2/3 in 9 starts. 63 and a third in 12 starts was Canning. Last time out, 7 innings, just 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, just 1 earned run, 2 hits against Minnesota. It's a pretty effective start against a decent Twins team. Disappointing day at Seattle to start before that, and then a very disappointing day against this same Angel squad that we'll talk about in a second. But at Seattle, went 6, struck out just 4, walked 3, gave up 3 earned runs. That was problematic. He had a really, really weird day the last time he faced this Angels team. He gave up 3 home runs. That is insanely not Framber-like. 10 hits, 8 earned runs, struck out 3, walked 1. Like I said, this Angels team typically gets their quality from hitting home runs from time to time. It was entirely unexpected that they would hit 3 against Framber Valdez. I do not think that they're going to hit 3 against Framber Valdez today. Neither does the home run model. Everybody except Joe Adell, not even halfway to the home run, to the magic number. Joe Adell at 5.07. Call that halfway. Outside of the one bad start against, again, this Angels team, 8 earned runs in that one. He had a bad start earlier in the season against Seattle. 5 1/3, gave up 5 runs. Struck out just 3. Every other game, 3 earned runs or fewer, and he's only given up 3 twice. Every other game beyond those, 2 runs, no runs, 1 run. Just the strikeouts are out of place. Could be a very good day to get some of his strikeout quality back. Even if he doesn't, for these prices, give me 7 clean innings of 5 strikeout ball, and I'll try and go win it with bats with Framber Valdez at these prices. So love the option on FanDuel, love the option on DraftKings. If you're rostering the Angels, I really don't think it's a very good idea. They might even get a little bit of popularity just from game log watchers who say, "Oh, they had 3 home runs against this guy last time. They're going to definitely succeed here." It's a really bad way to look at things. If you're rostering the Angels, Taylor Ward's your top priority bat. 253, 322, 445, a 192 ISO, creating runs 16% better than average with 11 home runs on the board. Luis Rengifo's probably number 2, given the second spot in the lineup. 4 home runs, 14 steals, a 140 WRC plus across 175, and the best slash line on this team. Then it's probably Logan O'Hoppe. 3,700, 2,700 for the hard-hitting catcher, 7 home runs in 201 plate appearances. Not a bad option, but not a great home run day. You can see him down to just 4.24 in the home run model. Joe Adell at just 5.07 is probably your next man in. 15.5% barrels, 43.6% hard hits, 30.7% strikeout rate. Could feed the upside for Framber Valdez. And we are now down to 198, 258, 444 in Joe Adell's slash line. The 11 home runs are nice. The 8 stolen bases are nice. Those are just the only things he's done throughout the season so far. 247 ISO is tremendous, but we're down to a 95 WRC plus. A lot of inconsistency, a lot of strikeouts. Zach Neto, Cole Tucker, Kyron Paris to round out their lineup. Neto's been all right. 7 home runs, 8 steals, 103 WRC plus. Playable enough, but not an ideal shortstop option. Hitting 7th, most shortstops hit higher up in the lineup, or they're just terrible. Neto's been okay, but the spot in the lineup's really bad. Tucker and Paris are just kind of skippable. Nolan Shanuel from the top. 6 home runs, a 113 ISO, 77 WRC plus. Has not really been effective. Doesn't strike out a lot, but has not been doing what he's supposed to do, which is just put bat on ball, hit for average, get on base. So not ideal, but the odd power output is odd. Also a lefty to start things off. Not great. Astros bats. Actually, I'm gonna switch. Framber Valdez, I like him that much. Astros bats, really nothing for me from the Angels side. I don't think it's a good spot to hedge. I don't think it's a good spot to draw contrarian shares of Angels, and it's certainly not a good spot to roster Griff Canning. Two games to go. Looks like we got the A's, not the Blue Jays so far. Hit the like for me. Hit the subscribe. Jump into our Discord if you're not. If you're playing WNBA and you're not in the free rotoscouts Discord, talking slate, talking projections, talking opportunities with those guys, you're doing it wrong. Those guys are pulling down some nice wins in our Discord. Nothing to do with me. Again, I'm not providing projections. I'm not even participating really in the channel because I don't know anything about the WNBA. I know Caitlin Clark is a person. I know, what's that other girl? Aja? Aha? How do you say her name? I'm not even sure. I know she had like the best game in WNBA history the other day. Outside of that, I really don't know that much. I didn't know that they played shorter quarters than the NBA. Gotta stop saying real. Than the NBA until I put together that model the other day. I was like, oh, that's why their numbers are so much lower. They play fewer minutes. All right, that makes sense. But the guys in our channel there, the basketball channel in Discord, they've been pounding the WNBA so far this season. Jump in there, check it out. Also a lot going on in the baseball channels, believe it or not. So Chrissy Bassett, 8,300, 8,700, with the idea that 7 innings is definitely in play here. We got some good information at the start of the show that he did throw 100 pitches despite just going 5 innings in his last start. Gave up 8 hits, struck out 7 in that one, 3 earned runs against Pittsburgh. Start before that also went just 5, struck out 7, gave up 5 hits, otherwise was clean. Clean game in the start before that. Both of these, those two came against the White Sox, one in a home and home. 7 innings in Toronto against the White Sox, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, no earned runs, 5 hits. So it's pitched some tidy ball games. The shaky nature of the pitcher comes through from time to time. He had a 7 earned run game back against the Dodgers. That one we'll forgive a little bit. 4 earned runs into each of Houston and Tampa Bay to start the season. By and large, it's been pretty good. 4.13 ERA with a 4.05 xFIP. That's about who he is. 3-4 earned runs on a average, mediocre kind of a day. 95.32 by Stuff Plus. We're a little bit below average Arsenal. That's not all that surprising. 7.7% swinging strike rate is not ideal. 21.9% strikeout rate with a 9% walk. We're putting a few too many guys on base this year. That's where some of the trouble comes from time to time. That's where some of the inefficient pitching numbers come from time to time. So if he's giving up hits on top of some walks, not striking that many guys out, depends on what happens with some of those numbers. So when we saw him spike those 7 strikeout games in the last 2, he ended up coming out after 5 after throwing 100 pitches in 5 innings because he was also giving up hits. Didn't really walk anybody in those games, but not the most efficient performances. We need him to find that right mix of efficiency and innings and depth again. But definitely on the board to succeed and to do that against this A's team. I wrangled the projection down a little bit. You could argue that it should be, 3 points higher, somewhere around there on FanDuel, point higher on DraftKings. I wouldn't quibble with anybody who wanted to have Chris Bassitt in a pretty big way today. 8,700 I think is an effective price for a good shot at a quality start on the FanDuel slate. 8,300 definitely a good price. You do have a lot of options in play. And he's one of the more high priced of the options, oddly, at that price. Everybody's just cheap. On DraftKings, like, everybody's cheap. So it just makes him a little bit of a clunky price fit on a spot that I do think is going to draw some popularity considering he's going up against the A's. On the other side, Hogan Harris I don't think is in consideration all that much. 3.14 ERA over his 14 and a third, one start, 24.6% strikeout rate. The one start was 5 2/3. He struck out 7, walked 3, gave up 2 home runs, 1 earned, 3 runs on 4 hits. That was against Tampa Bay. Had a good bulk relief appearance, 3 1/3. Didn't give up a run or a hit against Houston at Houston. Only struck out 3, walked 2 in that one. 5 1/3 in bulk relief against Texas. Gave up 4 earned, struck out 5, walked 1 in that one. Pretty gettable, I think, with some Blue Jays bats here. They're projecting for a little bit of power, usually, right around their typical moderate power output. A lot of effectively priced quality bats in this lineup. Some underperformances, sure, if we're considering the full season, but if we consider seasons past, I think we've just got some cheap prices to deal with some of these guys. So I greatly prefer the Toronto bats to Hogan Harris. I don't think you stretch for him on either site, even with the discount. If you're targeting Blue Jays, Davis Schneider, Danny Jansen, a couple of good options off the top of the lineup. Schneider's hit 7 home runs and stolen 3 bases. He's got a 200 ISO, 124 WRC plus based on a 337 on base. Draws a fair amount of walks. Aggressive free swinger, strikes out a fair amount of the time, but capable of driving the ball, hitting for power. 13% barrels, 36.6% hard hits. I think the hard hits is real. We'll see where the barrels land. We're dealing with some small sample numbers for him still. Danny Jansen, like the opportunity at catcher for him, 132 plate appearances, 5 home runs on the season, a 216 ISO. Good amount of power from the right side from Danny Jansen against a bad lefty. Vladdy Guerrero hit his 7th home run of the season yesterday, 131 ISO, 139 WRC plus, might have been the day before. As we've discussed many times, maintaining a similar or better premium contact profile. Based on that, I got to think that the home run output continues to climb. I got to think that the ISO goes up. 295, 388, 426. We're doing everything right except for hitting home run power. First and third base eligible on both sites now is dynamite. 4,700 on DraftKings also. Very, very cheap for this player. Bo Bichette, 41.28, remains very cheap because he's just been bad so far this season. 234, 282, 342, a 79 WRC plus. Last year, he was at 306, 339, 475, creating runs 25% better than average. Year before, 291, 333, 469, 29% better than average. I think he's more that guy than he is this year's guy, but we're getting a little bit long in the tooth sample-wise, so I'd like to see it bounce back soon. Same with George Springer, 239 plate appearances of underperformance from him. I like his opportunity to bounce back for quality. Justin Turner, he's like 42 now, so maybe this is just real. Maybe this is just what we're dealing with now. Had a great start to the year and has dramatically cooled off. 97 WRC plus. Any given slate upside for sure out of Justin Turner. I'm not willing to write him off that completely. 3,400, not a great fit at first base, but now that you can get Vladdy at third, it works a little bit better. First and third for 27 on FanDuel. Dalton Varsho for 43, 31, 10 home runs on the season. Not great lefty-lefty, but against this lefty, maybe there's some upside for him. That said, Harris does have decent strikeout stuff, or decent strikeout output, let's say. 11% swinging, 30.2% with a 24.6 in the small sample. Last year, 19.7 over 63, probably somewhere in between. 22-23% strikeout rate, but a decent swinging strike pitcher, so maybe a little downside for Varsho. IKF and Ernie Clement from the bottom of the lineup. IKF hits for average. He does have 4 homers and 3 steals. Okay average. Ernie Clement, 2 homers, 3 steals. Neither one of those is all that appealing. They do play multiple positions for cheap prices, though. If you're drawing A's shares against Chris Bassitt, if Bassitt gets crazy, crazy popular, it's probably worth doing a few times. They're just frisky enough with some of these bats. They're showing just enough power. And if you get the bad day from Chris Bassitt, I do think they could get there. Brent Rooker would be a priority. 12 home runs on the season for him, 270, 357, 541, a 270 ISO, 158 WRC plus. Cleaned up a lot of the downside of Rooker, 4,500, 3,300. He's effectively priced to cheap on the DraftKings slate. Shea Langoliers for 41 on DraftKings, where you have to play catchers. 12 home runs, significant power upside any given slate from Shea Langoliers. Don't dislike the option there. 16.7% barrels, 47% hard hits so far this year. JJ Bleday, 8 home runs on the season. Had a tremendous month last month, 214 ISO, 127 WRC plus. Lefty bat from high up in the lineup, makes some sense. Miguel Andujar, 6.17 in the home run model, has first base eligibility on FanDuel, which is interesting. Outfield only on DraftKings for 38. A playable part, he's hit 2 home runs with a 178 ISO over his 46 opportunities this year. Was good with the bat back in 2018 for the Yankees. Abraham Toro, 37, 28, 3 positions on FanDuel, 5 homers, 3 steals. Effective enough, triple slash, 110 WRC plus, but already kind of coming back to earth for who he really is. Seth Brown in the lineup, a decent lefty stick with some power upside. 5 home runs, 4 steals, a 67 WRC plus over 168. Was slightly better last year, 14 homers, a weak triple slash, a 92 WRC plus. Year before that, 25 homers and 555. That's the power we're looking for. Also stole 11 bases that year. Tyler Soderstrom, dead min on DraftKings, is interesting at first base with no positional conflict. 2,200 catcher in first base. That's the same thing on FanDuel. So far this year, just 184, 310, 306, 1 home run. Last year in a small sample, 3 home runs and 138 plate appearances. Hasn't really delivered in the show yet, but he's a kid that they expect to hit a little bit from the left side of the plate. Zach Geloff, 32, 28, still very cheap, still underperforming. 5 homers, 6 steals is good. 189, 250, 325 is not good at all. Max Schumann for 29, 26, a bolt-on part. 3 homers, 3 steals from the 9 spot. Playable, not a priority. I'm going to go Blue Jays bats, Chris Bassett, A's bats. No Hogan Harris. Last game up. Both teams at low totals. Good pitching matchups. Michael Nax calling the Jordan double dong. I like that call. Playing Criswell and all the bats on a heater lately. Love it, Michael. Go get him. I'm doing much the same as you just described. Los Bravos 88 in the chat. Love Crochet, but what I call the Spencer Strider effect is when the highest priced pitcher is also the chalkiest. Oftentimes not. They underperform said scenario. I think it's just a matter of like high price clashing with, what true ceiling looks like in a lot of those cases. I get what you're trying to say, Los Bravos, and I don't necessarily disagree outside of the they underperform that said scenario kind of part of it. I think you've got it the right way around. I'm not saying that you think of it this way, but saying it that way kind of would imply that the pitcher knows where he's priced DFS wise, right? So just taking that part out of the equation for anybody who doesn't get that, I don't disagree with you that when you go to a very popular pitcher at an extremely high price, you're trying to thread a pretty thin needle there because everybody's going to have it, right? So you still got to drill those bats. You don't gain that much ground on the field by going to that. So I think that's basically what you're saying there. Colin Sutherland likes the Marlins 1-4 and the Cubs 1-4. That's not a bad combination of options. Yeah, Los Bravos, I totally get you. Talking from a GPP perspective, I'm just trying to put like a little bit of explanation or context behind what you said there, just to take away the notion that the pitcher knows somehow that he's at a good DFS price with everybody going to him, right? Not that that's what you were saying in any way. So yeah, that Marlins 1-4, Cubs 1-4 combo. It's obviously not the 2 top teams on the board, but I think those are interesting enough hitters and probably a pretty effective prices to get to a pretty good pitching combo there. So I don't dislike the way you're thinking. Anthony Taylor's looking for Valdez to dominate and Crochet for the win. Love that as well. Mamba saying Westbrook will be in his lineup. Yanks messed up letting him go. Okay. I don't really see a position for him in the Yankees organization, if you want to talk about that. Like, Volpe obviously not going anywhere. Glaber, even if Glaber goes somewhere, I think the next man up for that second base job is Peraza, if you can ever get him healthy. Oswaldo Cabrera is obviously not a threat in any real sense, but he's going to see a lot of those plate appearances that could otherwise potentially go to like backup utility man type that then works his way up. I just think he's pretty positionally blocked with the Yankees, so I think they didn't really care about an older minor league player. But if he shows quality for the Red Sox, so much the better. Coming up on, this game's on Apple Plus tonight. That's a pain in the ass. I hate when these games are on streaming. Takes forever to figure out which of the goddamn things it's on if I don't catch the notice like that. Amazon, Apple, and none of them put it like right on the homepage or like the preview things that pop up. So it's not easy to figure out. You got to actually like open the app and dig in there. Anyway, nobody wants to hear an old man complain. Get off my lawn with your streaming apps. I miss push button cable TV. Getting up to turn the knob. Not quite that old. Push button cable TV I definitely had. I'm sure many of you guys did as well. If Larry's still out there, I'm sure he did. I'm sure Stephen Leibowitz knows what I'm talking about. Holding down the two buttons to try and see between the wavy lines on the adult channels and everything when you're a teenager. You guys know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. Some of you out there probably have never seen a rotary phone before. Just depends on which generation you're in. What's the average ticket price for the Yankees? It's not that much. Baseball's an affordable sport. I think my seats are... You can find New York Yankees tickets for as low as $18 so the true average is $147 because that includes MVP Club, $200 to $1,000 per ticket, like those empty seats that you see in that lower bowl that are all just bought up by Morgan Stanley. That drives the average up. But prices in the upper deck are like $18. In the middle tier are like 25, 28, 32, somewhere in that range. So it is still very affordable to go to baseball games. And the beautiful thing in Yankee Stadium is if you buy, like my seats are upstairs. I have upper deck seats right behind home plate, offset slightly to first base by like a section or two. And I love that spot. It's my favorite spot to watch a game from in a baseball stadium because you see the whole field. But on a day where it's, let's say, raining, you can walk downstairs and they have standing room around the entire stadium. And you can have field level seats. If there's 60 rows at field level, you're in like what would be like the 64th row because there's a little bit of a gap for like ushers and machines and stuff at the top of the steps. And then there's you. But you can literally just walk down there, no additional charge, no nothing, stand there and eat a burger and watch the game while everybody else gets rained on. So very good place to go see a game. And the point being, you could pay $18 for an upstairs ticket and then watch the game from basically field level. Not bad. Andy Melman knows what I'm talking about. Tommy David Walker had it. The Lions are now gouging after 1 year. Oh, the Detroit Lions, Anthony? Yeah, NFL pricing is way, way higher on average than baseball. Of course, if you think about it, 81 chances at having a home game versus 16 or versus 8, kind of tells you what you need to know. For the longest time, the New York Giants had like a 3-year waiting list a 3-year. I wish it was 3 years. They had like a 20-year waiting list for season tickets. People would will their spot in the line to their kids and stuff. Like it's that crazy. I don't think it's that bad anymore with the new PSAs and everything that they did when they built the new stadium. I think they eliminated a lot of the list. They wanted like, if you want to stay in your spot on the list and have the opportunity to one day buy tickets, send us $50,000. A lot of people bailed out at that point. Anyway, let's talk Diamondbacks. Let's talk Padres. Michael King going for the Pods, 8,900, 25.4% strikeout rate, a 3.82 ERA with a 3.77 xFIP. Definitely walking too many this year. Not as dominant as he was in his stretch of starts for the Yankees last year that got him traded out to San Diego in the Juan Soto trade. 4.23% home runs on a 14.4 degree average launch, but not that bad in terms of premium contact, barrels, anything like that. So I think this is a little bit of happenstance that drove this up a little high. This is not all that bad or out of line with the xFIP. So we're not really far off the mark with King. It's just a few blips, I think, along the way. Last year in his 9 starts, 104 and 2/3 combined between starting and the bullpen, 2.75 ERA, a 3.38 xFIP, 11.7% swinging strikes. We're not that far off that. Was throwing more called strikes and walked a lot fewer last year. That's where one of your big differences is. And then just in some of the happenstance, I think, for home runs. But you can see this is not far at all off of that. The hard hits are exactly the same. Actually, the hard hits and the exit velo are identical. That's actually impressive. 7.1% barrels versus 7.6. So just a couple of unlucky home runs here. Few too many walks there is the difference between Michael King last year and Michael King this year. So I don't think we're that far off. Last time out, went 7 against Kansas City at Kansas City. Struck out just 4, walked 2, gave up just 1 earned run on 4 hits. 1 earned run on 3 hits over 5 against Miami the start before that. Struck out 7, gave up a solo home run, but that was it. 3 earned runs in 6 2/3 at Cincinnati. That's not a terrible start in that park. 6 strikeout game. Had a bad one against Colorado. A lot of weird bad ones against bad teams for some of these guys. 6 earned runs in 5 1/3. 8 hits. Gave up a home run. Struck out 7. I'd be curious about where those runs came in that game. Did they send him back out for the 6th inning and he got dinged there? Not sure. Had a very, very good start against the Dodgers. Best start of the year, probably. 11 strikeouts over 7 innings, just 2 hits, no runs. Had a 10 strikeout game against Milwaukee back in mid-April. 7 2/3, 10 strikeouts, 1 run. Very capable of snapping off a high-end game against this Diamondbacks team. They're at a 21.5% strikeout rate with a couple guys swinging for the fences a little bit this year in this lineup, but a lot of guys with pretty controllable strikeout rates. Corbin Carroll at the top spot in the lineup. He's up to, I can't believe I'm saying up to a 201 average, but he is up to a 201, 284, 291, 68 WRC plus, 2 homers, 10 steals. It's been a complete disaster. And not a lot of good things to point to say like, yeah, he's not far off of what he was doing. He's pretty far off in terms of the hard hits, the barrels. Not that bad in the strikeout and walk department, but everything is really falling apart for Corbin Carroll. Ketel Marte, 47-36, 7.72 in the home run model. He's got 12 on the season. You get 8.14 to lead the team from Christian Walker. He's also got 12. And then Jock hitting between them over 172 plate appearances has 7 homers, 6.90 in the home run model. All 3 guys double-digit barrel rates. All 3 guys 50+% hard hit rates. Very, very good options for premium contact for power. Everybody above a 200 ISO. Everybody positive run creators. That's your key group of hitters for this team. If you're stacking Diamondbacks, you want all 3 of those guys. Jake McCarthy after them, 3,326, and everybody basically very effectively priced on DraftKings. A little bit more expensive on FanDuel to get to the full combo, but not terrible. DraftKings, they're a bargain. McCarthy, 3,300, 2,600, 2 home runs, 9 steals, 353 on base. Really an on base and stolen bases option. Any home runs or extra base hits that you get out of him is just a bonus, but he's good at getting on base. He's good at stealing bases. 113 WRC plus is believable from him. Interesting option in the 5 spot. Randall Grichuk for 31-24. Very solid 101 plate appearance stretch. 286, 337, 396. Creator runs 9% better than average. Just 1 home run in there, but a lot of well-struck balls. 45.6% hard hits with just a 13.9% strikeout rate. Junior Suarez hit his 5th home run of the season, hovering just above the Mendoza line. 69 WRC plus. Limited in terms of premium contact output. Was much, much better for right-handed power over the past few seasons. Hopefully we start trending back up with Suarez at some point. Gabriel Moreno 3,000, 2,500. Just 2 home runs, 242, 322, 344. Kind of a letdown so far this year. Quality kid, just a 16.4% strikeout rate, 10.2% walks is also good. It hasn't equaled a lot of run creation. It hasn't equaled a lot of DFS output. Any given slate upside for sure, but that comes more, I think, when he's hitting like second, like we've seen a couple times recently. When he's down lineup in the 8th spot, pretty skippable. Blaze Alexander with multi-position eligibility. Interesting enough wraparound based on his profile of getting on base, hitting for a little bit of power, and having some stolen base upside. That came all through the minors in 131 plate appearances in the show this year. He's at 300, 359, 433. Creating runs 28% better than average, 3 homers, 2 steals. He's been an interesting bat, so good enough for a wraparound back up to the top. If you told me you went Blaze Alexander, skipped Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Jock Peterson, Christian Walker, and Jake McCarthy as your 5-man, I don't think that's bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that, and just leave Carroll out of it. It's not bad. You could also dip to one of these guys. If you wanted to go like Moreno, Alexander, and those three, that brings your price down to just $39.60 a piece for the 5-man, $19.8 for the full 5-man. Yes, you're getting bad positions here in the lineup in terms of plate appearances, in terms of opportunity, but Moreno in that situation becomes okay in terms of his price at the catcher spot where you got to play a catcher. You just fill that role with a fair price, and then you get the quality out of Alexander and their three best hitters. All of this is in a bad matchup against a good pitcher, right? So we're keeping that in mind with both of these teams. Both of these teams projected in the mid-threes for runs. There are just bats that are worth talking about, but the pitching opportunities are the better spots in this game. On the other side, Brandon Pfaadt, $7,900 on DraftKings, $8,200 on FanDuel. Very effectively priced for a guy with a 23.7% strikeout rate and just a 4.7% walk over 73 innings and 12 starts. He's hit a couple bumps in the road along the way. He's given up 4 earned runs in each of his last 2 starts. Had a 5-run game, but only 3 of them earned against San Diego back at the beginning of May. Had a 6 earned run game against St. Louis back at the beginning of April that was kind of a meltdown. Every start in between, though, we're talking about like 3 runs at worst, handful of very high strikeout games. 7 or 8 strikeouts is in play basically every time he takes the mound with upside to 10 or 11. Had an 11 strikeout game against Seattle. Not surprising. 9 strikeout game against Cincinnati, 7 against the Dodgers, 8 against the Mets. A lot of potential here. Very good young pitcher. 11.3% swinging, just a 1.08 whip with the 4.7% walk rate, 4.32 ERA, but a 3.58 xFIP. Stuff plus is 5 points above average. Not really vulnerable to home runs this year. Last year, he was vulnerable to home runs. A lot of that came in the first handful of starts at the beginning of the season. Famously sent him back down, called him back up. He became the guy he was supposed to be and has dominated for the most part since. But that was a lot of home runs last year. He has completely wrangled that this season. Hopefully it lasts. You do still see some lingering effects from that in the home run model. Fernando Tatis Jr., 13.61 in the home run model. He's got 10 on the season, but just a 167 ISO. 12.5% hard barrels and 52.5% hard hits. I like the power numbers to trend back up. This is real. So Tatis arguably underperforming a little bit this season and still creating runs 37% better than average. Luis Arias is spectacular, 4,600, 3,200, just a tremendous hitter, gets on base a ton. Having him set the table for these guys is great. He does not get left out of stacks. First base is not ideal for him on DraftKings. I'll give you that. Second base for Cronenworth, that's not great. But I guess considering that it would have just been the other way around if they were positioned the way they were the other day, it's fine because just pretend like you played Cronenworth at first and Arias at second. It doesn't really matter. They're both first and second eligible on the FanDuel slate. To stretch that point, right? If you're not playing Cronenworth at second base in that situation, and you've got Arias at first, you're still booking like the best option for a light hitting player at first base because he's very likely to get 3 hits and provide some correlated scoring. It's just not completely ideal. Just make sure you're putting somebody high quality at second base with a little bit of power upside if you did that, where you went Arias, yes, but Cronenworth, no. Jerks and Profar, 4,000, 3,200, solid 7.76 in the home run models. Cronenworth coming in at a 7.81. They've both got 8 long balls on the season. 157 ISO for Profar, 180 ISO for Cronenworth. Profar dramatically overperforming expectations in the front end of the triple slash. The 480 slug is not bad. The 157 ISO is a little bit revealing about the power output so far. 164 WRC plus, limited for premium contact, but in no way has he been bad this season. I can't even say that I don't like him anymore. He's been really, really good, and the price is still very effective for DFS options. 2,200 for David Peralta, 22 on FanDuel as well. 23 plate appearances, hasn't done much yet this year. Was limited in 422 last year to just 7 home runs and 4 steals. Kind of an afterthought in this lineup. Jackson Merrill, I prefer, would probably rather have him hitting 5th. If we're just putting a lefty outfielder there, let's give the kid a shot. 268, 304, 346 this season, 91 WRC plus, 3 homers, 7 steals. Ha-Sung Kim, Tyler Wade, Luis Campusano at the bottom of the lineup. Kim is easily the best option out of those 3. He's created runs 6% better than average, where the others are 12 and 17 points below average for run creation. Tyler Wade hitting for an okay batting average, getting on a little bit. Only 6 stolen bases, no power output. Campusano, capable of hitting the ball hard, has not done really so much this year. 4 home runs on the season and 193. Premium contact is way down for him. Michael King, Brandon Pfaadt, Diamondbacks bats, Padres bats, in that order. The pitchers are way above the hitters in terms of where Vegas sees it. Again, both of these teams in the mid 3s for implied runs. So a lot of better spots for bats on this slate. And that's your slate, gang. It only took us 3 hours to get through. Michael Knack lives in Green Bay. The wait list for Packers tickets is like 35 years. Doesn't surprise me at all. I like the that house that was for sale. Did you see that somewhere? That was like basically in the Green Bay Stadium's parking lot. It's like the parking lot and then this guy's house, and the house was for sale. And at one point, there was some kind of campaign from a lot of Vikings fans that wanted to buy the house, which I thought would have been hilarious if they had done. Probably would have gotten burnt down the first week they did it, but would have been funny as long as nobody was inside. Garrett Crochet, top of the board, makes a lot of sense to me. 8,900, very effectively priced. By the way, that for the gentleman who mentioned that in the chat, what was it? Los Bravos was talking about the Strider effect. The highest priced and the highest priced pitcher is also the most popular pitcher. That goes away a little bit more at this very, very good DraftKings price. He's just going to be really, really popular there, but he's not that expensive for his upside. So that it kind of thins that prospect out even more. At 10-9, I do think that's going to be the case on FanDuel. Definitely going to have to go out and have punch out 8-10 Red Sox, have a clean 6 innings, get me both bonuses on FanDuel to pay that price off. And there are a lot of other options on the board. In my one lineup that I've got in right now, I'm not using him. I'm actually going to the bottom of the barrel price-wise and using Cooper Criswell against the White Sox and hoping that I get my even 5 innings. 5 and change would be great. 6 innings complete with a quality start bonus. Woo, now we're talking for 6,100. Second cheapest pitcher on the entire FanDuel slate projects out. If we sorted by FanDuel, again, I think he was 3rd or 4th by FanDuel projections. By just a couple hundredths of a point compared to all of these guys. But it's not uninteresting with that massive price discount against the worst lineup in baseball. At 7,000 on DraftKings, he's easily on the board as an SP2 option. Top SP2 option in my mind. Especially because you don't need the quality start there. Michael King, Brandon Pfaadt in the game we just talked about. Both options easily on the board. King does project out fairly to the number 2 spot on both sites. 9,500 on FanDuel. I would pay it, but I am not. 8,000 on DraftKings I think is an absolute bargain. You can load up on shares of that. Putting these two guys together for just $84.50 a piece is a killer combination. That is not bad at all. King's going to have to be on form to beat that Arizona team, but he's got more than enough stuff to do it. At 8,000, I love that option. You could say the exact same thing about Brandon Pfaadt a couple spots down. Yoshi Yamamoto's got tons of upside against the Yanks. That said, he's pitching against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, which is not ideal. It takes him down a little bit, 9,900, 9,800. He's going to be popular enough at very high prices. I think he's more likely to succeed than not in this spot. But the Yanks could easily hang a couple of runs on him that kind of ruins his DFS day for those prices. So you're still going to need him to be fairly high strikeout in this spot. Lodolo against the Cubs. I don't love the option based on where it's priced compared to how everybody else around him projects. You've got a lot of other options that look exactly the same. So why go to the highest price when several of the Cubs are showing some power upside? It's a bad ballpark situation. It's a team that can get on base. Lodolo's got good stuff. He could easily win this slate. I'm not saying he can't. But for the money on this side of lock, there's a lot of options I like better. Chris Bassett's one of them. 87-83. Against Oakland, he's got significant upside on top of that median projection. Very likely to hit the quality start. Very likely to book that median projection with a little bit of upside beyond it. So love the option. Criswell, again, just we're potentially limited by innings. But if he's going to get through 6 against anybody, it's this White Sox squad. For just 6,100, I'm going to find out on FanDuel. For 7,000 on DraftKings, I think you do. Framber Valdez is underpriced for his quality, dramatically so. 7,900 on FanDuel, 8,200 on DraftKings. One of the better options over the past 3 or 4 years of booking quality starts. He's down appreciably in strikeouts this season. I don't really care. It's cooked into the price anyway, and he's got a terrific matchup against the Angels. Yes, these Angels oddly hit 3 home runs against them and scored 8 runs against them the last time out. I want to see him do it again. Direct challenge to the Angels. I want to see you do that again. Screw up Framber Valdez this day. 8,900, 7,700. That is an aggressively good price for Logan Webb. I do not care that it's the Texas Rangers on the other side at that price. Upside for days for Logan Webb at that price. Another guy who's super capable of keeping the ball on the ground, limiting Texas's quality. No Corey Seager for Texas. Very, very cheap for 7 clean innings at 7,700. 8,900, you can absolutely play Logan Webb on FanDuel. It's just you've got a lot of other better options. But he's right on the board with them. Lance Lynn for 75-74. He's going to be crazy popular against Colorado in a home start against Colorado. Definitely looks good. Definitely has upside. That said, I think we can maybe get to some sneaky Colorado bats, especially if he gets crazy popular. There's an angle in there with some of those Colorado home run hitters. You just got to hope that they actually do hit those home runs that they tend not to actually hit. Bryce Miller's good, 9,700, 8,500. He's better priced on DraftKings. He's not going to be popular at all at those prices with everybody else available. I like his upside. I like him to have a successful day. It would not surprise me at all to see him as one of the higher scoring pitchers on the day. It's just, does he outscore the other options that are in like the 8s, the high 7s? Does he outscore Framber Valdez by 20 points on FanDuel? I don't really think so. So I think he's just a little bit capped by that price for him compared to the other prices for some of the other options. Michael Lorenzen for 76 on DraftKings is on the SP2 board for sure. At 9,200 on FanDuel, I just question it. Even though he projects out better than Bryce Miller, similar to a lot of these guys, it just feels like a really high price to pay for Michael Lorenzen against the San Francisco team that I think is a little bit better than they've been maybe and is showing a little bit of quality against. Justin Steele is very effectively priced for his talent. He is super cheap at 73-72. It's like Framber Valdez and Logan Webb on DraftKings. That is very cheap for a guy who is a talented pitcher. It's just bad ballpark, bad matchup against Cincinnati for lefties. It's not an ideal spot, but all of it is cooked into the price. So I do think you can play Justin Steele. Ryan Weathers against Cleveland. This is where we start getting a little bit thin, just because of what Cleveland does, but Weathers has been good this year. He's surprised in a number of spots. Hogan Harris, I'm just saying no to. Just given all these options. He's got a little bit of strikeout potential, maybe, but the Blue Jays have been effectively pretty low strikeout. I think they're starting to come on. They're showing a lot of quality against the bad lefties. So I think we're going more Blue Jays bats there. I think we're going more Miami bats against Logan Allen. This is now the correct version of Logan Allen. Austin Gomber, same thing. We're going to Cardinals bats there. This is a no-brainer. You're going to Dodgers bats against Cody Poteet, and we're going to Mariners bats against Daniel Lynch, and Houston bats against Griffin Canning are like my favorite spot on the board. 619. Let's take one last look at the home run table, and then we're going to get out of here. I got to get some projections updated, finish off lineup builds, answer any questions that come up in Discord. One last time, check out our pals over at acemind.io. If you don't know how to spell it, it's right there, plus a dot and an I and an O after it. Promo code rotoscouts, all in caps, gets you 20% off your first month with those guys. Hit the Discord, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Here's some banner information for those that want it, need it, etc., etc. Top of the home run board, Shohei Ohtani in Yankee Stadium against a bad pitcher. That one makes a ton of sense to me. Jose Ramirez not far behind in that Cleveland game. Jordan Alvarez, somebody was calling for the Jordan double dong. I love that opportunity against Griff Canning. Lefties murder Griff Canning. If you got Kyle Tucker in the lineup today, so much better. It only improves the upside. Alex Bregman was the home run pick of the day. Bregman is right here. He's 10 plus. Altuve's right there at 11 plus. And then Alvarez all the way up there. For Cleveland, you're seeing Ramirez right there, Josh Naylor right here. You get David Fry right there. So 3 Cleveland players above the magic number for home run quality. I think 2 Mariners. Did Julio make it above? I guess he didn't. So it's just Cal Raleigh from the Mariners, but there's quality in that Mariners lineup today. Healthy run total. Michael Toglia holding it down for the Rockies, 10.73. We looked at his tremendous power upside. I think that's kind of interesting if Lance Lynn is super popular. Ryan McMahon not far behind, so you get 2 Rockies above the magic number. Ezekiel Tovar not too far off the pace. Downboard a couple other guys were kind of interesting. Freddie Freeman to add to that Dodgers pile. Will Smith right there. Ohtani up top. Teoscar right there. Mookie Betts. So you got 4 Dodgers above the magic number. And Freddie Freeman, let's just give it to him. Call Freddie Freeman at 10. I'm going to give him the extra 0.13. So call that 5 Dodgers at the top of their Dodgers lineup going up against Cody Poteet in Yankee Stadium. Sometimes these scripts just write themselves. Anthony Taylor's dropping Harris in one lineup with LA and San Diego. Not my favorite choice, but you're taking a couple high-end bats from those two teams. Sure. He doesn't project out like terribly poorly, right? 67, 65 is effectively discounted from the Ryan Weathers' the Justin Steele's of the world. It's not completely crazy. I don't think it's going to work. But now I'm down to just like, maybe a little bit of bias in there. Just thinking like, this guy's not that good. Last year really wasn't great. There's not a lot of, I probably shouldn't have scrolled over. It's not a lot to work with there. The 11% swinging strikes in the very, 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 very small sample this year is something to cling to. 24.6% strikeout rate obviously is good, but again, tiny, tiny sample. I worry about the low strikeout number for you. Right? We get Davis Schneider at a pretty beefy number up at the top with arguably a little bit more downside for him, but all of these guys are believably in the teens. Dalton Varsho right on like who he is, and then we're back into the teens, and Ernie Clement just strikes out 7% of the time. You really need him to go like give you those like 5-6 just clean innings, and then whatever your upside is for strikeouts, it's fine. But yeah, like you said, Anthony, looking for a spear in the wind. That's a good way to put it. So yeah, you know what you're doing with that play. So no need to harp on it. That's what I think about all of these plays all the time. Like when these come up in questions and stuff, right? As long as you know what you're doing, you're walking into these plays with your eyes open to what the downside could be. There's reason to do it. And especially with a low-owned thing like that like you only need limited success at those prices. Those are angles that are, potentially on the right day boost you into the top 1%. And then you get some happenstance from there to the top spot in the tournament. So, yeah, I wouldn't take it off the board for you. Anyway, that's about it, gang. 6:23. Holy shit. I got to get this stuff updated. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Have great weekends. Projections and everything up through the weekend. No show over the weekend. Let's go Yankees. Be at the game tomorrow, like I said. Think that's it. See you tomorrow, or see you Monday. Later, gang.